Oh, people of YouTube, don't you dare be sour. Clap for good mic work commentaries and feel the pow. Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you, the people of YouTube. And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries. Yeah, you better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos. You better watch every single one right here at Good Mic Work Commentaries. Do it. Do it now.
What is up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to the July 26th, 2020 edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast, coming at you special on a Sunday. I sincerely apologize for having to bump the podcast one day from yesterday, but my delightful work schedule made it impossible for me to come up here yesterday. So I let you guys know back on Monday night during the Raw review and a couple of times this week on social media that I was bumping it to today, and I put it up on YouTube. So hopefully most of you got that message and are here to join us. I'm up a little bit earlier than I normally am on a Winged Eagle podcast day because I got to head to work right after this, and I'm working a little earlier as normal also. So it's summertime for me. Even though we're in the middle of the pandemic and COVID, my restaurant is still a little bit busy because of it's the busy season, and it's just kind of goofing stuff up a little bit. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility and dealing with my slight schedule changes as it comes to the Winged Eagle. But I'm up here every weekend. Every now and then, though, every so often, we got to bump it to Sunday. But you guys are here now. We got a ton of stuff to get into. Lots of wrestling news. We had a big week of wrestling this week on the Wednesday Night Wars. We had an interesting SmackDown next week, on Friday night, and tomorrow Raw is shaping up to look not bad. A lot of big title matches there, and we got several title matches next week for SmackDown as well, and AEW, and I believe NXT. So we got a full week of wrestling ahead of us and a big week of wrestling to discuss. And I think it should be a pretty fun episode. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Hello to everybody that's already here in the chat. I think I saw Dan Price up in here earlier. Good to see you. Neil is here. Will I give you a special shout out and mention you since I loved your idea of the This Day in History 20-year anniversary of SummerSlam? Yes, I will. Thank you for that. I forgot what stream that was in. Was that Monday or was it last week on the Winged Eagle? And you suggested that since SummerSlam 2000, it's the 20th anniversary of it next month, I should do a video on it. And you're right, I should do a video on it because I was there. I was at the event. I had great seats. And one of my favorite live shows that I've ever attended. So that will be coming up in August. Thank you for the idea, Neil. Good to see you, Giovanni and Sam, and Maka, Eminem, Vash, William Cullen, Midwest Goon, Ernie Garcia, welcome back, Jet the Hawk, WWE House. Myself has got a comment in there. Devlin, you're alive, you're here. How's the hurricane going, man? Hope all is well in Hawaii. I've been kind of eyeballing that thing. Texas has got one slamming into them, too. And I'm really hoping the one going over Hawaii is going to kind of brush by the islands, but it's still big enough and still close enough that it could get gnarly. So I'm glad that you're here because if you are, that means at least you have power. So good luck to you, man. Vash, I think I got you. Randy, peace. And Big J, how wheezy. Good to see you. Andrew, Michael, Joshua Aparicio, what's up? McLean, Sonic, Paul, Carpenter, Michael Cuomo, Margie, Stephen Taylor, Jet the Hawk. What's up, guys? Glad everybody is here this afternoon. We should have a nice, chill, relaxing podcast. Nothing too crazy to get into, but a fair amount of wrestling news. I think it was last week on the podcast. I didn't have a whole lot to discuss in terms of news. So I feel like this week we got a little bit more going on. Let me give myself a quick sound check. All right, you guys can hear me. I look good. I'm a little ugly today, but whatever. We're here. We're here to rock and roll. As usual, let me give a quick shout out to all of our patrons and the supporters of this channel that help out so much and keep the ball rolling. Of course, the easiest way to support the channel is just to subscribe and watch this video and give it a like. It's completely free. Takes 1 second of your time. I would love it if you'd hook this channel up with a thumbs up. And if for some reason you're not subscribed, please smash the subscribe button while you're at it. In terms of our patrons, I want to thank everybody, including Apron Bump, brand new Apron Bump podcast, I should say, brand new $10 per month patron. Appreciate it, my friends. Antoine Daniels and Dre Leggett, Alan Carter, Daniel Rodriguez, Scotty Cura, Brandon Yelverton, Alex Reynolds, Scott Moss, Michael Tong, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dog's Kennel, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, Stephen Myers, Double Z TV Zach, Claudio Clavedetcher, John Rediford, Jordan Karg, Barry MK400, who will probably be hanging out in here as well. He's in Hawaii land too. Hope he's doing all right with the hurricane. John Riffle, Josiah Blevins, Mr. Steve Domanian, Ewell. Is that right? Ewell. Michael Cuomo again. Did I just name you? No, sorry, Michael Tong. Michael Cuomo, sorry, I got myself screwed up there. Naveed, Keith Salyers, Nathan Walker, and Blake Moran. As always, guys, I appreciate it. If you are a $10 a month or more patron or have $200 or more lifetime, your name is down below in the description as well as a top supporter of the channel. I very much appreciate it. I do have a quick scheduling note for you. This coming Thursday, I've got a review coming up on Wrestle War. This is going to be courtesy of Patreon supporter Scott Moss. I was hoping to get that up Tuesday, but it looks like it's going to have to be Thursday just based on my schedule at work. So that will be a regular upload. It will not be a live stream, and it's going to be a full review on WCW Wrestle War 1992, which contains one of their best War Games matches they've ever done. I've taken a look at the pay-per-view and got to watch it back, and it's the first time I've really watched it in quite some time. I think maybe since, I mean, I have it on my own DVD, but I don't even remember where I got it. The last time I remember sitting down and physically watching it was when I rented the tape at the video store back in 1992 or whatever the hell it was. So it's been a long time since I've really sat and watched that show again. And, some of the commentary there with Bischoff is there and Shivani, Jim Ross, Jesse Ventura. Great pay-per-view, a lot of fun, and we're going to have a good time talking about it on Thursday. So keep that in mind. And then the Winged Eagle for next week will be back at the regular time of Saturday. And, of course, tomorrow's Monday, and I'm going to be up, as always, every week. Immediately following Raw tomorrow night, we'll talk about the show, and hopefully, knock on wood, it won't be a shitty show because we have two title matches on the line. One is relatively predictable, and the other one not so much. We got Asuka and Sasha. The winner will be the official Raw Women's Champions, and Sasha won it sort of with Bayley being the referee, and Stephanie announced there will be a match this week. I still think Asuka's taken that. I do not see... I just don't see Sasha winning the belt, just not necessary to me. So I think Asuka's going to win that back. And we have Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre facing each other for the WWE title as well. And I think Drew will retain there. So tomorrow might be fun, and we'll see how it goes. So make sure you guys are here immediately after the show. We'll talk about it. Let's get into some news first, and let's start off with some sad news. Sad news to report. Longtime wrestling fan and legendary TV show host Regis Philbin passed away, I believe, yesterday at age 88. And for those of you who are old enough to remember him, he had the big Regis and Kathy Lee show on. I think it was in the 80s and the 90s. My mom loved that show. And Regis was a big wrestling fan. He had all the guys on the show, all the way up until he stopped doing the show. You know, all the way back in the day, he used to have Hogan on there, Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior. He's had Ravishing Rick Rude, Bret Hart, Shawn, I think, has been on the show, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all the way up through the Attitude Era for as long as that show aired. Regis had the wrestlers on all the time. I think he had some WCW guys on there as well. And he was just a really big wrestling fan. He was one of the special guests at WrestleMania 7. I can't remember what he did there. I think he was the ring announcer. That might have been Trebek. He was either ring announcer or timekeeper or guest commentator or something, but he was one of the invited guests to WrestleMania 7. He was a hilarious guy, very entertaining, and I always remembered watching that show because if for any reason I stayed home from school or I was sick or something like that, my mom always had it on, so I just watched it sometimes. I couldn't stand Kathy Lee. She was so annoying. She wouldn't shut the fuck up about her son, Cody, but Regis was just a trip. He was hilarious. He was funny. He was very spunky. Always full of life, and we thank him for being a wrestling fan. He was one of the best ones we've been lucky enough to have. So rest in peace to Regis Philbin. Condolences to his family and his friends and his colleagues and stuff. And it's kind of wrestling related, so I wanted to open up here with a little tribute to old Reg because he was the man. Very sad, but lived a long life and a good life, and rest in peace. Some of the other news we've got to get into, we have to mention this. This is not a big surprise, but WWE has officially announced that SummerSlam will not be in Boston. We knew that. I think it was already made official by the city of Boston itself, but WWE hadn't made any official statement on it up until just a couple of days ago, and they have now moved SummerSlam out of Boston. They have not mentioned where it's going to be, even though we're assuming it's going to be at the Performance Center. Not sure if they're trying to scramble to put something together last minute to where maybe they can have this on the beach, which might be fun, or maybe some sort of another venue or setting that might give it a different environment or feel, since technically it is the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. But I have a feeling it's just going to be at the PC. And TakeOver is also going to be there as well. They've kind of rebranded TakeOver, sort of, from TakeOver Boston to TakeOver 30, which is cool. Is it really the 30th one? That's insane. So we'll see. We'll see how those two pay-per-views shaped up, or are going to shape up in the next few weeks. It's just a shame that we're still in the middle of this, and I'm guessing that WWE's not going to attempt to try to knock out the Hall of Fame from WrestleMania at this year's SummerSlam, because if they weren't going to do it at Mania, I guess, there's no fans allowed back, and you probably can't even get a lot of this talent in to fly in for any of this stuff unless they do a video Hall of Fame and everybody does their speeches remotely, which would definitely have to be the case for Liger, you would assume. But haven't heard anything as it relates to that, so I just don't know. What do you guys think? What's the future going to hold for that Hall of Fame class from this year? Is it just the entire class moved to next year? Or do they scrap it and create a new class next year, or a mixture of both, or do a double class or something? But, I think it's getting less and less likely that WrestleMania will even be here in LA as well next year, which means it's a whole nother Hall of Fame that you might not be able to do. And if everything was going to go off properly and without a hitch and go off as planned, I was thinking this would be the year for The Undertaker to go into the Hall of Fame, but that might have to be changed now based on all of this. So that still sucks. Don't really know what the future holds for anything there, but we do know SummerSlam will be in Orlando or in the state of Florida somewhere coming up in August, which is just a shame, but we'll see what WWE can do with it, how good they can make it. I think TakeOver has the potential to be really good with some big matchups being announced there, which we'll talk about later with the North American title, new champion being crowned there, and likely we're going to get Keith Lee and Karrion Kross. So TakeOver 30 is looking pretty strong, but, again, it's pandemic wrestling, and it can only be so good. You know what I mean? Speaking of pandemics, I want to just mention this because it relates to me. The Chris Jericho cruise that I attended last January and had a blast. Oh my God, it was so much fun. But didn't think I was going to get back to it again because next year I've got, hopefully WrestleMania here this year. I've got a trip to Hawaii planned. I got a lot of stuff going on. So, my girlfriend and I were just like, the Jericho cruise is probably not going to happen. Well, it's probably not going to happen for them either because we're still in the middle of the pandemic. So the cruise website has announced that it's been postponed. The cruise that was supposed to be, I think, in late January or early February of next year has now been bumped to next October, 1 year from this October. Well, that changes things for me because my only issue with the Jericho cruise, it was too close to other shit I had going on. Well, October works. So I went to the website, made my deposit. I'm officially on the waiting list since it is sold out, but I fully expect to be able to make it. People will be dropping out, I'm sure. And it looks like I will be attending the triple whammy after all, provided in a year and 3 months from now, if we're out of the woods enough to even be able to do this. So if the cruise can happen, I'm going. It's going to be fun, and I'm excited about that. The postponement actually worked out. Excuse me. The postponement actually worked out well for me in my schedule and now has allowed me a chance to go. So I'll keep my fingers crossed that that actually happens. Let's see. What else do I have here on wrestling news? I talked about the SummerSlam a second ago and how it's been officially moved out of Boston. It'll likely be at the PC unless WWE throws something together at the beach or something. And speaking of the Performance Center and the in-house crowds that they're doing, I wanted to read a quick report from Fightful Select because I found this interesting. We've been seeing every week on TV, they got the plexiglass up, they got all the wrestlers and the PC guys and gals behind there making all sorts of fucking noise. Some fans think it helps. I do. It's definitely better than silence, but it's never been as good as AEW. I felt like Dynamite has always been able just to handle this empty, awkward arena a little bit better than WWE. WWE tried to get cute. They definitely tried to get creative with the plexiglass, and when I first saw it, I was like, that's interesting, but it immediately grew old. I'm like, I don't really know. And with everybody banging on the plexiglass, some people say it's distracting. I don't know how the wrestlers feel about it when they're in the ring working, if it's, distracting for them or not. But WWE's also we've been hearing that they've been having, crowd noise piped in. That's been obvious when you watch the show. So not only do you have the PC guys on the outside making noise, they're adding in crowd noise and trying to do their best to create some sort of a wrestling environment. And it definitely is better than what it was at first, around WrestleMania time when it was just so crazy dead silent. But, it's still not, it's still awful. It just sucks to watch. You know what I mean? I think the ratings are definitely reflecting that. But based on those, the PC guys and gals that are hanging around the ring there making all that noise, I wanted to read you this report that I saw yesterday from Fightful Select about some of the talent there and some of the requirements. They're apparently WWE is allowing them to opt out and not show up if they want to, but a lot of the recruits and a lot of the PC talent and trainees have said, yeah, they might say that, but we all know that if we refuse to work, it could affect us, and we feel like we're between a rock and a hard place here. So this is what the Select article had said. I'm going to quote here. Although conditions have improved since the initial set of tapings, some people have either outright refused to come in or hadn't shown up to some of the event tapings before all of the positive tests even dropped. So prior to all of those tests, people were like, I ain't coming to work. We're told many no-showed the backlot fight between Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream specifically. Along the way, some NXT talent, including Undisputed Era, were asked to come in as extra noise before friends of the wrestlers were eventually brought in. So yeah, they're kind of bringing friends and family now, which we've also heard of. They go on to say, prior to that, many of the top names in NXT were exempt from even being asked to come by, which is good. As far as Stephanie McMahon's notions that everything is on a volunteer basis, that hasn't been the sentiment echoed by the NXT recruits. While there was one early name that told NXT they wouldn't be coming in, we've heard of several that asked to not participate and were told they needed to come in. So there's no, I don't want to come. And they're like, no, you need to come. So, it seems like it's a totem pole. It's a pecking order type of thing, just like you would be like in my restaurant, if the toilet overflows, the dishwasher's got to clean that up. It's just the way it is, so it's probably like that in all forms of business and jobs and all of that. So it's something you got to accept. But when it comes to actually, risking your life or risking illness in the face of a pandemic, I would be very uncomfortable working there, and I wouldn't even know what to do. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I think if I'm a top level talent, I'm giving them the big FU. I'm like, you assholes aren't going to see me again until this goes away. If I think and I feel and I know that I'm untouchable. I'm like, what are they going to do? Fire me? They don't want me on Dynamite, So if you're one of those guys, you're in a good spot. But if you're a recruit, if you've had a handful of indie matches and you're 2 years into the business and they've signed you because you got a good look, you might just have to eat shit and just go do whatever they say in order to preserve your potential future. And, WWE can be very petty. We've seen that before. We don't know what the environment is backstage. We hear a little bit from the talent that talks to some of the dirt sheets and stuff. But, in terms of, what the attitude is, it does seem like some people are scared to say no. And that sucks. And it just goes back to that whole thing that we talked about all the way back around WrestleMania time. That isn't it really the responsible thing to do for them just to shut down for a while we really just work hard to snuff out this virus as best we can and try to get a handle on it, because it just seems like things are getting worse, not better, and we're no closer to getting things back to normal than we were prior to WrestleMania. And, and then you got so many positive tests, you're constantly shuffling around your rosters and your pay-per-view cards and making changes because there are last-minute changes, last-minute positive tests. A few dozen tested positive all at one time in WWE. So, the volunteer basis, I'm assuming, is not only with talent, but it's also with staff behind the scenes and production guys and things like that. WWE wants to claim that they have an option to not work, but I think we all know better. And I just found that little article from Select interesting because, because of the whole situation that we're in. Select also reported, this was interesting, I had no idea it was this guy that did it, and I don't even know his name. So it's one of the guys in Indus-Sher, Malcolm Bivens' tag team, that we haven't seen on TV since Keith Lee won the title, and I forget which one it was, but it was one of those big guys, was the one that took the picture and spoiled the outcome of the Keith Lee and Adam Cole match. He apologized backstage, apparently issued some biggest apology to the NXT roster and the staff and everything there. And word is that there's no significant heat on him, but as we've seen, they have not been on TV since all of that happened. And that's a shame because of that group there, Malcolm Bivens is the one I like. Every promo I've seen him cut so far has been fantastic. I think he's just a terrific mouthpiece for a team, and I like him a lot, and I miss him. So even though maybe the team isn't really connected with me yet, Bivens has. And whatever the future is, I hope we at least see him back on TV at some point. But based on the fact that there's reporting, no significant heat on him, hopefully he will be, the tag team will be back. But if not, at least bring Malcolm back because he's fucking awesome. Just wanted to mention that as well. Speaking of crappy wrestling, declining ratings, pandemic, and boring stuff, after 20 years, Sky Sports Italy is apparently dropping WWE in favor of AEW Dynamite. This is mostly due to the declining ratings and the just overall expense of WWE programming, and they feel like the better move is to go with AEW. So WWE has also moved networks over there. They have now signed a deal with Discovery, and after 2 decades, Sky Sports has dropped them for AEW. Pretty interesting development. In the boot-shaped country. I like it. Just, anything that helps AEW grow and anything like that, I think, anything to help light a fire under WWE is all I'm saying. The better AEW is, the more WWE is actually going to give a shit, because sometimes when we watch Raw and SmackDown, does it look like they give a shit? No. So I think any success and any growing and growth that AEW has is just going to benefit us overall. And I like to hear some stuff like that, even though it's kind of a minor deal. It's just Italy, and, it's just a, small country with, WWE, and they're changing it out for another one. It's not like it's the whole world, or it's a, country with 20 billion people in it or anything like that. Not a huge deal, but interesting, and I like hearing stuff like that. Wanted to mention a couple of other random things. Did you guys see the Adam Cole and Pat McAfee interview? Adam Cole was a guest on Pat McAfee's podcast or whatever. Apparently, these two guys have had some heat, and I got tagged in the video 3 or 4 times the other day on Twitter. So I took a look at it, and I could recognize almost immediately, and I don't know what's come out about this. You guys can let me know. I was immediately convinced this was a work 100%, just based on the tone. I think if it was a shoot, it would have been slightly more tense, maybe slightly more awkward. Pat McAfee, I didn't hear the whole interview. I just kind of heard what led to it. And McAfee has gone on to claim he's kind of shit on Adam Cole's size a little bit, and then he said, he told Adam Cole, you surrounded yourself in NXT by great people. I'm assuming he means, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. He goes, you've surrounded yourself with legends. You've surrounded yourself with great wrestlers in your own faction. And it's because of that you've achieved the success that you have. And Cole took exception to that. He's like, look, motherfucker, I came onto your show, your stupid show. He goes, I got where I am because I worked my ass off, and they kind of jaw back and forth a little bit, got a little bit heated. Don't know what it's going to lead to because I'm not really a big Pat McAfee fan anyway. I really had his side during the story from WrestleMania a year or 2 ago when Michael Cole chewed him out in front of a group of people for wearing shorts or something. That's how you're going to dress at WrestleMania. I mean, he was wearing a suit, but the suit pants were shorts, which I agree look stupid, but who the hell is Michael Cole to call him out in front of everybody? And I said this when this story came out. I'm like, if that would have been me, I'd be out of the WWE because Michael, I would have punched his jaw off as hard as I could. I wouldn't care if I got arrested for assault or WWE fired me or whatever. It would be worth it to pay the fine and get fired by that company to knock that asshole out for being such a prick and chewing me out in front of a group of people. Nobody would ever do that to me. It would be the last thing they ever said. So when I heard that, I'm like, how did Pat McAfee, who's a big guy, even though he's just a punter, which is another thing that Adam Cole made fun of him about. He goes, dude, you just punted the ball. You just went out there and kicked. You didn't do shit. So even though he's just a punter, he's still a football player. And I would have gone over there and whooped Michael Cole's ass. So that's the only time I've really had Pat McAfee's side on anything, because other than that, I find the dude extremely obnoxious and extremely annoying. I don't really like his voice very much. But WWE seems to like him. He is charismatic. He has a lot to say. I can see why, when it comes to football players getting into wrestling, why he would be a guy that would be interested in wrestling and vice versa, because he can talk. I'm not saying he can't, but he's pretty easy to not like just based on his, attitude and stuff. So I'm fully on Adam Cole's side on this, although since to me, and I could be wrong, but since to me this came across as a complete and total work, I'm curious why. What's it leading to? Are we going to get a match from these guys? Is McAfee going to eventually get in the ring? Is he going to worm himself into an NXT storyline or something like that with Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era? Is this the beginning of an Adam Cole babyface turn? Is Cole or Undisputed Era going to the SmackDown roster? Are they going to break this faction up? What do you think's going to go on here? Even though I could tell it was a work, I don't know why they ran an angle like this, and I don't know what it could possibly lead to. I can only guess. Maybe something at SummerSlam. Do you think maybe Pat McAfee? I don't think they would do this because it would require a lot of guys with no training in the ring on a big pay-per-view. But could they do like a Lawrence Taylor type of thing where maybe McAfee goes off and gets 3 of his football player buddies and they take on the Undisputed Era in a big match of some kind, or a big, I don't know, like how AEW did the Stadium Stampede? Maybe they do some sort of gridiron grudge match or something, I don't know, with football players versus the Undisputed Era, and they could play off the fact that football players are big and strong and Undisputed Era are all small dudes. All of them are tiny. So that could play into the storyline there, and then maybe Undisputed Era could beat them. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. So if any of you guys know where that might lead and what the hell it all meant, fill us in. Before I get into my next piece of news, let me just cruise over here and knock out some of these super chats that I saw flying in. Guys can do me a favor and keep smashing that thumbs up for me. We got a pretty low audience in here, but hopefully it will grow. Hey, look at there, Jimmy Anderson. I think you're the first one. Good to see you, my friend. Greetings from Europe. Good evening, and thank you very much for the super chat. Good to see you, man. And Nathan Hansen, appreciate the $2. Perfect timing for Undisputed Era to debut on SmackDown. Right, yeah, that's what I was just saying. We talked about that after Adam Cole lost the title, but, at the same time, I think they could still run in NXT. They could run there as babyfaces if they wanted to, but they've had a good run there, so going to SmackDown does seem kind of likely at this point. Jimmy, thank you for another one, man. Appreciate it. Is it really worth having a bunch of old people in the PC with potential COVID disease wrestlers and personnel? No, it's not worth it, but WWE does it anyway. I have no idea what Ric Flair is doing there. But AEW, they've got some older folks out there as well. You got Jim Ross on commentary every week. The Jake the Snake Roberts with all of his demons in his past life. He can't be in the greatest health. I saw him on the Jericho Cruise. He kind of waddles around and he's getting old and he struggles to move a little bit. And he's probably not in perfect tip-top health. Arn Anderson, Tully and some of the other, old timers that are still there hanging around. I don't think it's a good idea for anybody to be doing that. But, people are also moving on with their lives. But yeah, when it comes to Ric Flair and anybody else that might be in WWE that doesn't need to be there, I think both companies should observe that idea and say, if we really don't need them there, don't bring them there or ask them to come because you don't need them. And Ric Flair is probably the best example, at least with Arn, Jake, Tully, guys like that. At least they have a role. They're managers. They have to be there. Flair, they're just bringing in randomly to do shit, and I think that's dumb. So, yeah, I would kind of wish Flair and anybody else that's kind of up there in age, especially when you get around the 70s, needs to stay at home. Devlin, what's going on, man? Appreciate the $5. Spending money in a hurricane. That's my guy. Yes, join the Jericho Cruise. Going to be a good time. Yeah, Devlin was there with me last time. Yeah, that's the plan. It's October, so nothing's really holding me back there. So unless something crazy happens or COVID continues to be a major threat in the next 15 months, plan is to be there. Get the drink package this time, too, so can save some money. All right. I think that catches up the super chats for the moment. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I found it hilarious, who saw the Seth Rollins Golden Age tweet, Golden Age of Wrestling? I just wanted to mention this because I thought it would be interesting and fun to talk about. So Seth tweeted a couple days ago, it was either yesterday or the day before. He tweeted out the following, and it seemed random. Excuse me. It seemed random and kind of funny, but there's a little bit of truth to what he says. So here's what he tweeted. He says, from coast to coast and sea to sea. Is he writing a poem? I don't know if there's ever been this much incredible wrestling going on at one time. Taking nothing away from past generations, they inspired and paved the way for us, but we're damn sure keeping up. And then some. Hashtag iron sharpens iron. Hashtag the golden age. So this, of course, creates all sorts of controversy because fans hate it when Seth tweets out anything. And only in wrestling, and this is what I noticed why I wanted to talk about this when he tweeted it, because only in professional wrestling and with this goofy-ass fan base. Can somebody tweet out something positive? Every single thing in Seth's tweet, even if you don't agree with it, was a positive tweet, showing props to the current crop of wrestlers across the world in all promotions. And I saw fans ripping them apart. What are you, fucking stupid, Seth Rollins? And I'm like, dude, I understand that maybe he went a little far with the golden age hashtag and everything, but do you have to like jump up his ass? At the end of the day, this was a positive tweet and a complimentary tweet to all of his peers. And fans are acting as if, he sexually assaulted someone or something. I'm like, dude, are you going to cancel Seth Rollins for making a positive tweet? And when you look at it, from an in-ring standpoint alone, from an athletic standpoint, from the abilities of the wrestlers that you see in the modern age, he is 1,000,000% right. Take it from me. If you're 25, you cannot make this judgment. I can. I've seen everything. And when you see the evolution of the athleticism in wrestling from the 70s, 80s, 90s up until today, we've had some great athletes in every single decade, in every single era. But but wrestling now really being for everyone, allowing, and I mean, it's really always allowed, but, back in the day, if you were 180 pounds, you ain't going to be a wrestler. That's not the case anymore. So you have seen the athleticism really, really rise and increase over the last 10 or 20 years because of, the style changes and because of how many people can now become wrestlers. And I think one of the big influences on that was Rey Mysterio. I remember when I first saw Rey Mysterio, I could not believe how small he was. And I did not think, I'm like, he looks like he's 10 years old. There is a 10-year-old kid in the ring winning championships. What the F? And from there, I mean, Rey really was the guy that I think got the ball rolling and really paved the way for the stuff, for the Will Ospreays and guys like that, and the Ricochets, and all this crazy talent that we have in AEW, WWE, NXT, and spread all across the independents, all over the world. It's incredible. So from that standpoint, from in-ring athleticism, there ain't one single untrue word in Seth Rollins' tweet. However, on the other side of that, you talk about character development, star power, creativity, booking, all that stuff has really been in the shitter lately. So I think Seth's tweet was mostly focused on in-ring ability and maybe less, the creative storytelling aspect of wrestling, because that has really suffered. The WWE, I think, is the worst offenders of everybody because they have no continuity. They don't follow through with anything. They start and stop things on a whim. They change shit up all the time, and they put no emphasis or time or energy into really building stars, even though that's what they claim they want to do. They want to build new stars, but they suck at it because nobody can get over. It's not just about winning matches. It's about connecting and giving them something meaningful to do with substance and has creativity to it, and the fans can say, oh, I kind of like this or whatever. So there's just no connection there. So I think from that standpoint, wrestling's never been worse than it is right now. But from an in-ring standpoint, Seth's tweet I thought was 100% spot on, and I thought he was just complimenting. He wasn't complimenting himself. He wasn't patting himself on the back. He was talking about other people, and yet fans still get pissed. That's wrestling for you. I mean, at least it's better than what T.J. Perkins said. Doesn't he have a prick face? Doesn't he? Did you guys see what he tweeted out the other day? I think he quote tweeted somebody that said, hey, wrestlers out there, who's somebody that you've been in the ring with that has really taught you a lot, that has really helped you elevate and step up your game and made you a better wrestler or something like that. He quote tweets the thing and is like, to be honest, nobody's ever taken me to that level. I've been above everybody I've gotten in the ring with, is pretty much what he said. Of course, he got dragged like crazy for that. He tried to elaborate. He tried to say, I'm not shitting on anybody. He goes, I've loved and respected everybody I've ever been in the ring with, and I have learned a lot, which is a direct contradiction to his previous tweet where he just said he didn't learn anything. And then he's like, no, I've learned a lot. It's just I felt like nobody's really pushed me to that next level. And if he's confident, there's nothing wrong with that. He's confident in his abilities. He's an extremely athletic and talented kid, but he's always came off douchey. You know what I mean? Like even in WWE, he just had that face. You just want to smack him. So I've just never liked him. He's just that young generation of kid. He's somebody that I would hire in my restaurant to be a busboy, and he'd be a gum-chewing, cocky prick, and I'd fire him in a week, So he's always kind of given me that vibe, even though I've always respected his ability, thought he was a hell of a champion, cruiserweight champion in WWE, but there's been more than one time now where he's gone in an interview or he's gone on Twitter and just came off like a douche. Just came off like one. I'm not saying he's a douche in real life. Might be a totally nice guy. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding him. But I think there's a difference between being confident and being kind of cocky and full of yourself, and I don't really know if he's crossing over that line or not. I kind of feel like he is, but when you see a tweet like that, if you want to rip anybody, rip him. Leave Seth alone. Seth tweeted something positive. TJP's like, I'm so great, nobody's better than me, kind of thing. I'm like, for real? I think if you got in the ring with anybody, I think they need to teach you some humility first and foremost. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with being confident. Nothing at all wrong with being confident, but that was a little ridiculous to me, and I found it interesting. So I think that is all I really have jotted down for the wrestling news. Just thought there was enough interesting stuff there to get into and discuss. We'll start mentioning the Wednesday Night Wars, next big week of wrestling on Wednesday. But first, we're going to start with that Raw preview for tomorrow night. Let me just cruise back over here to the chat, make sure I didn't miss anything too crazy. Nobody spilled anything on the ground. Devlin, sirens going off now. Yeah, watch yourself, man. How's the wind? Is it windy and rainy, or is anything happening there? The fact that you have power, because power is usually the first thing you lose in a hurricane. Once that wind really starts coming in, it's almost a given that you're going to lose it. But, yeah, best of luck, man. That's scary. Hey, Magic Mac Music, how you doing? Yeah, I know Midwest Goon, you're probably quoting Vince there, but Vince, Melo, the Observer was reporting that Vince is really into kind of taking advantage of this opportunity of COVID to make new stars and get behind people, and that is a direct contrast to what it seems like WWE is doing, which I've always said, it's not about the individual talent anymore, it's about the brand. WWE, as lucky as they were to have Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin to really build those companies up in two different time periods. Hogan took WWE to huge heights. WCW came along, nearly put WWE out of business, and Austin saved them. And even though those characters were great, and The Rock played a role in that too, but even though those talents were great, WWE, I don't think, ever wants to put their eggs in one basket anymore because the whole thing is so incredibly fragile. What would have happened right in the middle of Hogan's 4-year title run if he would have broke his neck? Or died, or had a career-ending injury, or something happened. Austin was even more fragile than that because he had the pile driver. In 1997, they completely changed his style. After that, before that, he was, pretty good worker that could take some good bumps and do a lot of mat wrestling and stuff, and he became mostly just a mat-based brawler after the pile driver, and he had to be very careful how he wrestled, but he's the champion. And he's got to wrestle on every house show, and he's got to wrestle in the main event of every TV, every pay-per-view, and every live event. And that's a lot to ask for a guy with a bad neck. And that whole situation was so incredibly fragile. And luckily, he made it all the way till 1999 before having to leave to get the neck surgery. But, right after he won the title from Shawn, think about Daniel Bryan, how sad that was when he won the title at WrestleMania 30. And 2 months later, he's forfeiting it? What if Austin had to do that after WrestleMania 14? And then you would have lost Austin and Shawn and Brett a couple of months before that. The whole thing was really, really fragile. So, and it could all decline in a whim. So I think WWE never wants to, you did? How easy? I'll nail that in a second. Sorry, man. I don't think WWE ever wants to put themselves in that position again where they have to rely on one guy. But that doesn't mean you can't build stars too, And I think you've got I'm just looking at all the people on the roster. I'm like, Jesus, look at all these guys that could just be the next big thing. You need another Brock Lesnar or type or something, you need that. And I think maybe when Roman Reigns comes back next year, if WWE can learn from their mistakes with him. He's been posting some pretty impressive pictures of his workout regimens and stuff. The dude looks like a beast. Would love to see him come back and drop the Shield gear and just maybe have a little bit of a different look and maybe a little bit less cheesy in the promos and stuff like that, and just become a little bit more of an ass kicker. And if you want to be a babyface, do it more like Drew McIntyre. And I know Drew McIntyre's kind of giving us the Roman vibes every now and then, but he's still, I still like him better on the mic than Roman. I like his intensity better than Roman, and he seems like a big guy with confidence. And he's like, look, I'll fucking kick your ass, dude, kind of thing, where Roman tells more nursery rhymes and stuff. So I'm kind of hoping when Roman comes back, he's just a little bit more badass. You know what I mean? And a year off for Roman, for the fans, could be really good, especially when you add on to the time he missed dealing with the leukemia and stuff. You know, it might just be the break from Roman Reigns that we need. But if WWE knew what the hell were they were doing, we wouldn't need these breaks from wrestlers. I mean, how sad is it that we live in an era where when a wrestler gets injured or is gone for a while, it's actually good for their future because it'll allow the fans a break because WWE, you know, their booking and handling of them and completely shoving them up the asses of all the fans. Sometimes it's good that we don't get to see them around. Charlotte is another good example of that. Charlotte, who is a great wrestler, is probably going to go down as the best women's wrestler in history. I think she's fantastic, and I've always had her back, but the fans are all pissed because she's on all the shows all the time. She wins and blah, blah, blah. She actually doesn't do anything different than Sasha and Bayley are doing right now, but it's just not fun when it's Charlotte because everybody hates Charlotte. Because, well, what is it again? Because she has blonde hair and Ric Flair's daughter, right? Those are the only reasons why she gets belt. Not because she's good, not because she's talented, not because she's worked hard, not because she's strong and athletic, but because she has blonde hair and she's Ric Flair's daughter. That's why. Okay, whatever. But when you have a break from wrestlers like that are overexposed a bit, it's good. So I think Roman and Charlotte, if WWE has both of these big talents who the fans really seem to be fed up with near the end there, if both of those talents take all this time off and WWE does not take advantage of this opportunity to make the fans care more about them when they come back, I think that's going to be a huge waste, and I think they're going to really drop the ball there. They've got a chance here to take these two that they want to be big stars and actually maybe even make them that if they handle them correctly when they return. So big knock on wood there. I ain't confident at all that the WWE is going to do right by them, but we'll see. We'll see them in a year or so. But yeah, that's pretty much the deal there. Before we get into the Raw review, let me cruise back up here. I think I missed How Wheezy Sue. Oh, yeah, there you are right there. Oh, How Wheezy. Oh, you can do, well, sometime I contacted a couple guys and they did one for me, but there's also the Cameo option. So go over there and you can get them done. Depends on who they are. They kind of vary in price and stuff, but, you know, some can be $200, you know, some can be $30. It just kind of depends. But I got a few of them made. I was going to kind of make like a montage intro. I just haven't gotten around to doing that because I've been so damn busy with work and everything. But things will start slowing down for me in August and September, and I'll probably be able to not be quite as hectic at my, you know, my main job, and I'll be able to focus a little bit more on this and be a little bit more consistent because you guys have not seen me since Monday. I usually don't wait 6 days in between uploads, so it's been a really long week of me not posting here. So that's why we got the big review planned for Thursday, and we got the Raw review tomorrow, and you got me next Saturday. So 3 video minimum next week. Should be fun. But thanks again, How Wheezy. I appreciate that, man. Let me go to the Raw review. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on last week's Raw that was a week ago now, you can go on the channel right now and watch the review. But tomorrow is shaping up to be pretty big because, of course, we've got the big Asuka versus Sasha Banks title match that was announced last Monday by Stephanie McMahon, and Kairi Sane is still there. I think tomorrow's Raw, I think, has already been filmed. And we talked about that on Raw when Kairi beat Bayley, and there was talk that that was finally it for her. Her contract was up on July 20th or whatever, but I think she was still able to tape some episodes. And I said on Monday, I'm like, I seriously don't think that she is gone yet because it would be out of the blue. Asuka's got this big match with Sasha, and then Kairi, with no explanation, like, isn't there. It's not like they ran an injury angle or anything like that. And that's what I actually think they will do with Kairi, because if you remember last week, I think it was during the Kairi and Bayley match, wasn't Shayna Baszler looking on the monitor backstage? So what I think might wind up happening, since Baszler and Kairi have got all that history from NXT, and Kairi actually beat Shayna Baszler in the Women's Classic final, or the Mae Young thing, didn't she? So maybe Shayna gets her hands on Kairi, injures her and they write her off TV that way. Still not sure if WWE's worked anything out with her. They were trying desperately to keep her around, to keep her away from other promotions, maybe even offering her a role as an ambassador and shit like that. But the word is, according to the Meltzers and the Ross Sapps and the Alvarezes and all those guys, is that she's taken off. She's going to be wrapping up business with WWE, heading back home. And we really, really, really wish Kairi Sane the best. But until then, I still think she needs to tie up her loose ends in WWE. I thought it was really cool that they gave her the victory over Bayley on Monday. And if that's the last time we see her, great. But I fully expect her to be on Raw tomorrow, backing up Asuka. I also fully expect Asuka to win back that title. I think she will. At least I hope she will. The 2-minute women power trip is not something I really need. Plus, Sasha's been parading herself around with that belt, so now we've seen it. We've got the visual. We're done. Give the belt back to Asuka and set up for Asuka and Baszler at SummerSlam, especially if they do a deal where Baszler injures Kairi, has a match with her, beats the hell out of her, breaks her arm, sends her out of WWE, and there you go. Boom, you got your Asuka and Shayna match for SummerSlam. I'd much rather see that than Asuka and Shayna not for the title. You know what I mean? So we'll see if Kairi wrestles again. I kind of hope that Monday was her last match. I kind of hope that the win against Bayley, she will leave WWE with a victory over a champion in the record books. I like that. And I'm hoping that's the case. So maybe on TV, maybe after Asuka wins or something like that, she's jumped by Shayna Baszler. I just feel like Baszler will be involved in her departure because of the potential Asuka and Baszler match on the horizon. So tomorrow should be interesting to see how that match between Asuka and Sasha plays out. I'm interested in it. Drew and Dolph, of course, are wrestling for the WWE title. Dolph convinced Drew to give him another match. This time, Drew gets to pick the stip, and Drew ain't revealing that stip until tomorrow. So until match time, McIntyre will let us know what it is, unless he's done it on social media and I've missed it. That should be fun there as well. But again, Drew is heading into SummerSlam. He's going to be defending the title there. You know it. He is not dropping the fucking belt to Dolph Ziggler on a taped Monday Night Raw. Not happening. And speaking of Drew and his title match at SummerSlam, Randy Orton. I apologize for coughing. I got a tickle in my throat. Randy Orton is also advertised for tomorrow to announce who his next victim is going to be. Apparently, Randy Orton wants to target somebody else, and he's supposed to announce that tomorrow. That'll be interesting to see how it plays into Dolph and Drew. If Randy Orton comes out in the beginning of the show and says, I want to face the winner of those two at SummerSlam, or if he waits until after the match and hits the ring and RKO's McIntyre, maybe to close the show. That I wouldn't mind. I don't know what the main event is going to be tomorrow. If it's going to be Asuka and Sasha or Drew and Dolph. I think it would be cool if it was Dolph and Drew. Drew beats him, claymores his head, square off his shoulders where it flies and smacks into the plexiglass and lands on the ground. And after McIntyre is celebrating with the title, Randy Orton slithers right in the ring like the Viper he is. Bam, RKO. Stands over Drew's body, does the whole belt thing where he holds it up and the show goes off the air. And there you go. There's your SummerSlam match. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays in. If Randy Orton is in fact going to be the challenger for Drew, which you got to think he is, because aside from someone coming back like a Roman Reigns or a Brock Lesnar, neither of which I think are happening, who the hell does Drew face at SummerSlam? It's got to be Randy Orton. And there's also talk that Randy Orton will pick up his feud again with Edge, and they are even planning, I mean, it's way ahead, so I don't know how much merit this has. But there's rumblings of a rematch between Randy Orton and Edge at WrestleMania 37 in a potential I Quit match. Which, again, if it goes on as planned, I'm supposed to be there in LA, and I would love to see that. How funny was I guess WWE, this is fucking hilarious. It was on their website or social media or something. I guess they released the top 10 matches. Was it of the year? I don't think it was of the year. Was it of the year or of the decade? I forgot what it was. I think it's of the year. And Randy Orton and Edge, the greatest wrestling match ever, was the second best, not the first best. Pretty ironic there. Oh, and also tomorrow night, we've got Angel Garza and Andrade taking on Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. The winners face Street Profits for the titles at SummerSlam. And in terms of that, I think Garza and Andrade are great. I can totally see them as tag team champions, completely. But I want Cedric and Ricochet to win, because otherwise, what the fuck are you doing with these guys, man? Jesus, they're both so stupidly good. And when they initially put them together as a tag team, remember, those of you who were around when I was commenting on that, I liked it. I'm like, okay, Ricochet, they've just completely shit on ever since, the Brock match, I guess, in Saudi Arabia. And, the way he was in NXT and winning the North American title, he was a big deal there. And then since he's been on the main roster, just not done a whole lot, despite how good he is. He's had a couple of good matches. I remember a really good King of the Ring match he had last year with Drew McIntyre that he won. And he's had some moments, but really, all in all, he's been a complete disappointment. And it's WWE's fault. Cedric Alexander, same thing, how impressive he was in those Cruiserweight Classics and 205 Live. And all of the athletic talent that he possesses, and they just do shit with these guys. So they put them together, and I was like, those two guys make a pretty good team. They can be very young bucks and Hardy Boys-ish, because they're very athletic and do a lot of crazy things. If they color coordinate themselves, find their chemistry, maybe even come up with a team name, I would be completely on board with them becoming a permanent tag team. This company doesn't give a shit about tag team wrestling for some reason. You look at AEW, they have teams over there. WWE's got a few, but most of those teams are slapped together teams, aside from the Profits and the Raiders, and maybe a couple of others. Everybody else is just two guys they put together. You're a team now. So I think since Garza and Andrade have so much story going on with them, their dissension, Zelina Vega constantly having to cool their heads and mend fences and all that stuff, plus everything else going on backstage with Charlie Caruso and all that nonsense, they've got so much story going on there and so much stuff going on with them that a loss here isn't like a burial for them, where Cedric and Ricochet, who are already just doing nothing and spinning their wheels, a loss here I think could be more damaging to Ricochet and Cedric than it could be to Garza and Andrade. So I'd like to see Garza and Andrade tomorrow implode, have some sort of a slap fight or something. They get all distracted, allowing Cedric and Ricochet to get the win, and you send Cedric Alexander and Ricochet into SummerSlam to take on the Street Profits. Tell me that match won't be good. Because we've seen Street Profits and Garza and Andrade a bunch of times, haven't we? Haven't we already seen that? I feel like Cedric and Ricochet, when you take those two guys with the athleticism of Montez, who threw one of the most impressive frog splashes I've ever seen in my life last Monday on Raw, that is going to be a match for the ages. So I just want to see Cedric and Ricochet win because I think it benefits them more, and it also is more damaging to them for a loss. So I think Garza and Andrade can survive everything. Now, if Garza and Andrade win and they go on to win the titles at SummerSlam, fine, they'll make great champions. But I think I'd rather see a new team come up here, because think about if Cedric and Ricochet become a team, and they become like a real team, and they win the titles, what in the hell can those two guys not do in the ring that any team in AEW can't? What can the Lucha Bros do? What can the Bucks do that Cedric and Ricochet can't from an athletic standpoint? Nothing. So, if WWE wants to compete with that phenomenal tag team division that they have over there, make a team out of these guys and give them the belts. And I think, it'll be a babyface match if they face the Street Profits, but who cares? It'll be a fun match, and I think it will be ridiculously entertaining based on just the pure athletic talent that exists in that match. So I'm rooting for Cedric and Ricochet tomorrow. We'll see. Should be fun. Join us tomorrow, immediately after the show. Let's move on. We got to talk about Wednesday night, because I thought both of these shows were pretty good. As a matter of fact, I got to pull up one more thing here. Just bear with me, because I did not write down, I have it here in my notes, but I did not write down the ratings. It was a very big win for AEW, though. They won, I believe, by about 200,000 viewers. Let me find the ratings. There they are. Okay. So AEW scored 845,000 viewers this week to NXT's 615. So we saw during the Bash, NXT went on a 3-week winning streak there. They won prior to the Great American Bash, and they won both nights of the Great American Bash. They did that on the strength of Sasha and Bayley being on the show, Keith Lee winning the title, and Sasha, I think, was on the previous one before that, maybe taking on Io Shirai when they won. So Sasha and Bayley equal ratings, at least in terms of NXT. But when everything kind of went back to normal and NXT was back to doing regular shows again, AEW is back to wiping the floor with them pretty strongly in their ratings. So I will let you guys know which show I like better this week. But I did like them both. I thought they were both pretty solid, and they've both set up, or at least NXT did, set up some really interesting matches, one in particular for next week that I'm really interested in. But I feel like we need to start with NXT because it did open up with some really huge news. that was advertised. William Regal was being advertised to make a really big announcement on Wednesday. And some people were even speculating, based on a tweet that he had sent out, that maybe he's stepping down as NXT GM. I think he's been in that position for about 5 years now. Been a while, right? And that was the big speculation, that his big announcement is that there was going to be a new authority figure in NXT. That was not the announcement. The announcement started at the beginning of the show with Keith Lee, I guess, sitting in his office or his desk or whatever, and he's got both titles there. And he announces that he's going to relinquish the North American title to focus solely on defending the NXT title and to create an opportunity for someone else to win the North American title. And this is something that I mentioned right up front. Even prior to him beating Adam Cole, I said when he beats Adam Cole, he's going to have to relinquish that title. Some people don't agree with that. I do. I think you should, especially when it's a lesser title. Get rid of it. Defend your world title. You're the champ now. You're the man now, so be the man. And I think we got too many. We don't need all these double champions. We got fucking Sasha and Bayley and all this shit. You don't need another double champion out there. And I was surprised to see so many people like on Twitter having a problem with it. I'm like, bro, for all these fans that get so mad about guys not getting opportunities, when Charlotte had 2 belts, it was the worst fucking thing in the world, but Keith Lee and Sasha and Bayley, I guess all that's fine. Nobody's being held back now, right? But him relinquishing the title, I think really had to happen. I think it's just the best way to do it. I have no issue with it at all. And William Regal announces that the title is going to be determined this way. They're going to do a series of triple threats on TV. All the winners of the triple threat matches, however many they're going to have, will be in a ladder match at TakeOver 30 to determine the new champion, which I like because, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the North American title initially crowned? Wasn't it initially crowned in a ladder match, right? Like Ricochet and EC3 and all those guys were in it. Am I right about that? So I kind of like that. That might become a tradition. Like if there's ever a case where the title has to be forfeited due to injury or it's held up or vacated or whatever, do a ladder match. Do it every single time you have to do this for that title, with that title, because I think it would be a fun little tradition. But anyway, that's the deal there. Keith Lee is now only the NXT champion, and that's honestly the way it needs to be. Instead of defending both belts and lumping them together, I just think this is so much better. Plus, it gives somebody else a chance to win this title, and it's going to be really interesting to see who that person is going to be. We've got some ideas. And actually, I'm not going to go in order here of the show because I want to skip down to this first triple threat match so we can keep talking about the North American title. The triple threat match that we got, the first one we got on Wednesday, was Johnny Gargano versus Roderick Strong versus Bronson Reed. Now, again, prior to Keith Lee even beating Adam Cole, we talked about this right here on the podcast, and I had pitched that if Lee beats Adam Cole and becomes a double champion, that he will forfeit or NXT will strip him of the title. And I was kind of hoping they'd have a tournament for it or thinking they would have a tournament for it. And the guy I picked right up front was Johnny Gargano. Newly turned heel Johnny Gargano, or sort of. He's had a pretty fun year. I like his transition into being a heel. I like his pairing with Candice and her heel turn. And the two of them together, I think, make a really good, are presented really well. And I like them. And and he's had a taste of the North American title before. And I kind of thought, based on his position on the card and everything, he's really not in the world title contention right now. I thought he would be a perfect guy to win the North American title. But he lost right off the bat in this triple threat. Pretty cool finish here, too. Bronson Reed, they did a little promo prior to the match, and Bronson kind of said that he was going to win this match. And even, I think he took a little shot at AEW there when he said, I'm going to go all out, which I liked. And the finish was really good. Gargano hits the one final beat on Roderick Strong, and he kind of goes for like a one-armed pin or whatever on Roderick, but Roderick is laying right there in the middle of the ring, and out of nowhere, Bronson comes flying in off the top rope, hits a splash on Strong, and pins him and gets the win. So Bronson Reed has now moved on. He'll be in the ladder match. He's a big boy, so I am not expecting him to win the North American title or anything, but I like that they gave him the victory here and are going to put him in a big match at TakeOver. That's good for him. Now, I kind of have an idea. I think I was wrong on my Gargano pick because now that I look at who's in next week's triple threat, I think I got an idea who might win this North American title. But I'm also not ruling Gargano out because we've seen it a million times. He's a heel. He can worm his way back in. And I would like to see that. The fact that we've seen that recently. You guys got to help me with examples because I know there are plenty of examples of this. But he lost the very first triple threat match. It's kind of like if you lose a King of the Ring match and then you find your way back into it. Haven't we had a King of the Ring winner that way too? where somebody like lost a qualifier but still got in anyway. It's kind of like that. So I think Gargano will, maybe worm his way into another triple threat on TV prior to TakeOver, win it, and get himself in the match. So I'm not ruling out Gargano at all unless he's going to have some completely new opponent for TakeOver. Not sure who he's really feuding with at the moment right now, if anybody. So I kind of feel like Gargano could still get in. It's like those Elimination Chambers. Didn't Edge do it? Didn't Edge come and attack Kofi Kingston and then lock himself in the pod? Wasn't it Kofi? I forgot. One of those years. So I feel like Gargano can do something like that. Or maybe he can just show his ass up in the ladder match and just be in it. I don't know. So I think I wouldn't rule him out yet, but based on the match that's set up for next week, which I cannot wait to see. This might be the match across all of TV next week that I'm the most interested in. And that is Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher versus Dexter Lumis. Wow, that's going to be good. Triple threat match. Winner advances to the ladder match. I feel like this is going to be Balor because later on in the show, Timothy Thatcher would defeat Oney Lorcan. He kind of beat him straight up the first time. They had a rematch here, and Thatcher kind of counters an armbar into a roll-up and got the win there. So I feel like that little issue between Thatcher and Oney Lorcan is over for now. And I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast that I would really like to see Timothy Thatcher and Dexter Lumis have something going on with each other because that would just be a fun matchup. I think they've wrestled once on NXT, right? But I'd like to see a program. I think a program between the two might be interesting. So with the two of them now being in this match with Finn Balor, and Finn Balor, how do you not pick him to win the North American title? I'd love it to be Finn. So what I think might happen here is maybe Thatcher and Lumis cancel each other out next week, allowing Balor to advance. Maybe he's able to score a pin or something. They're so hell-bent on getting their hands on each other that Balor just capitalizes on that in some way. Maybe they're wrestling around on the mat, and much like Bronson Reed came off of the splash, maybe Balor comes off and hits the coup de grace on one of those guys and gets the pin, and he advances, and then Thatcher and Lumis can have their issue and maybe even have a takeover match. Just a guess there. But if Finn Balor is going to be in a triple threat match to advance to a ladder match, how does he not win? So I'm kind of going with Finn Balor on that one. I think Thatcher would be a great choice to win the North American title. A great choice, but maybe not yet. He's still doing a pretty cool thing just with his ass kicking and his Thatch Can promos and vignettes and shit. So I kind of like his whole deal. I don't think a title is absolutely necessary for him right now since he's kind of new onto the scene, where Balor is slightly more established, and I think he could be a good candidate to win. So I'm picking Balor next week, but that match on paper is just, past the lotion, right? Let's rewind a little bit because I want to talk about, speaking of Dexter Lumis, by the way, he did defeat Killian Dane with the Anaconda Vice, so it looks like that issue is also over. Dexter's kind of had a little thing with Killian. Thatcher's had a little deal with Oney. Feels like both of those issues are now settled and they can collide with each other. That's what I think is going to happen there, but let me know if you have a better idea. Oh my God, did I love the Bree Mounties, the Breezango Mounties, or the Quebecerangos, or I don't know what you want to call them. But Breezango took on Everrise in a tag team match, and they came out dressed as Mounties, or as the Quebecers, but they came out to the old Mountie theme song for like the first 30 seconds before it transitioned into their own theme. And I love the outfits. It was great. Morrow and Beth were dropping Canadian jokes throughout the whole match. Very fun. That just brought a smile to my face because shit, the Mountie back in the day. And I thought I felt like they should have done the Quebecers theme song since they were a tag team. But I guess they don't like to talk about PCO very much in the company for some reason. But that was fun. I just enjoyed that. Put a smile on my face. Good stuff there. The Shotzi Blackheart and Aaliyah match was also pretty fun. Shotzi defeated her with the diving senton. Shotzi then gets on the outside of the ring, gets in her tank, and I think Robert Stone, had taken a bump off the apron or something. He's laying there. Now, she had already ran over one of his legs with the tank a few weeks ago. Then she runs over his other leg. So his good leg that's not injured is laying there. She runs over that. He's freaking out. And in a spot that's very similar to what I'm going to talk about later with AEW, when Darby Allin just got annihilated from behind by Ricky Starks, this was similar because Shotzi, after she runs over Stone's leg, she's standing there on the tank, and out of nowhere, a big boot just comes and blasts her in the face, knocking her 5 feet off the tank. And it was the boot of Mercedes Martinez, who's been back. I think she won a squash match a week or two ago. and she's kind of back on the scene now, and she came out of nowhere and just laid the fuck out Shotzi Blackheart. That was a great spot. Hope Shotzi's okay. Later on backstage, she officially joins the Robert Stone brand, which I didn't really have pegged for Mercedes, but she almost like presented it or worded it as in she didn't want to deal with the bullshit. I need a manager to handle my crap. I don't want to do it. Why don't you do it? I'm officially on the Robert Stone brand kind of thing. So a really interesting faction he's trying to build here. He's had a lot of different type of girls with Aaliyah and Chelsea Green prior, and now a badass like Mercedes Martinez. I am okay with it, I suppose. I kind of feel like Mercedes is going to get fed up with him and beat the shit out of him at some point on TV is what I feel like will eventually happen. But it's just good to see her on TV. Now she's involved in something. Now she's got a storyline, a manager, and potentially an opponent to work with here in Shotzi Blackheart. So all the best to Mercedes. She's a beast, and she's going to be champ one day, 100%. Like I said, Thatcher took care of Oni Lorcan. Did I miss any other matches other than the main event? I think that was it. Yeah, that's all I have in my notes here, unless I'm missing something. But anyway, in the main event, big advertised match, one that I was looking forward to, Karrion Kross taking on Dominic Dijakovic. Extremely predictable. There is no way in this purple-blue earth that Dijakovic was going to win this match. Kross is the guy. Kross is being built into a major player, and he's being thrown into the fire right off the bat. I kind of thought it would take a little time to become a challenger for the NXT title, but he's here now. And as good as Dijakovic is, and a strong competitor that he was, this was going to be all Karrion Kross. It pretty much was. Dijakovic had some offense and everything. It's not like it was a squash, but he wasn't going to stand a chance against Karrion in the end. Kind of awkward near the end when Karrion is just beating him down. I think he's mounted him at one point. He's just laying forearms and fists right into his face. Just unprotected shots right to the face. Eventually locks. I think Keith Lee comes out there first prior to the cross jacket. Keith Lee comes out there, and because Keith Lee and Dominic are they're homeboys. So he's concerned about his friend. He's like, come on, stop the match. He's trying to encourage Dominic to, just let it go. Don't get yourself hurt. And it's just really dramatic and kind of awkward. And Dominic's like, no, I must do it on my own. I have to. It's something I have to do, or whatever he's doing. A little exchange between Dominic and Keith on the outside of the ring. Little cringe. I ain't going to lie there. In the end, Karrion locks in the cross jacket, and Dominic still does not submit. I believe this was a ref stoppage. Referee stepped in, said match is over, and it was almost like that's kind of going to be the heat to build between Kross and Lee now that Kross injured Lee's friend or beat the shit out of him. Almost like a Rocky type of thing where Drago killed Apollo, and Rocky then had to go fight Drago on his friend's behalf. But Dominic didn't die here. He was just beaten. I don't think he was injured. I don't think he's going to be missing time or anything like that. But it was, for Kross to do that right in front of his friend Keith Lee and the whole stare down and the whole deal. That's a match that's going to be fun. I mean, we can assume this is happening at TakeOver, right? I mean, how can it not? So if they haven't announced that yet, they will. Karrion Kross challenging Keith Lee for the NXT title. And how do they get out of that if they do it? I mean, I don't want to take the belt off of Keith Lee yet, but I don't want to beat Karrion Kross. So what do you think? Is Keith Lee really a transitional champion? Are they going to use Keith Lee to put Karrion Kross over monstrously? I mean, huge? Because think about it. If Karrion Kross goes into TakeOver and he beats Keith Lee in similar fashion that he beat Dominic Dijakovic here, it's going to be like, whoa, you just made yourself another Brock Lesnar. Could Keith Lee survive that? Could Keith Lee go to the main roster after that? Could it be just a short title win? Here, we're going to give you the belt for 2 months, and we're sending you to wrestle with the big boys right after you make the next guy. I think it's a little early. I think the only way out of this is to... Who loses? I mean, do you do a schmaz? You don't do a DQ. Maybe you do some interference. Part of me still thinks Keith Lee's going to keep the belt for a little while, so maybe he just beats Karrion Kross, and it's like, wow, that just gets Keith Lee over even that much stronger as well, and then Kross comes back and wins the title later. I don't know. Basically what I'm asking is, if you want to keep the title on Keith Lee, how do you do it? How do you get out of that match at a TakeOver at a big pay-per-view and not give us a disappointing finish? We don't want a time limit draw. We don't want a no count out. We don't want a double count out. We don't want a DQ. Nothing like that. We don't want the referee. We don't want both guys' shoulders counted down and two referees argue about who won. We don't want anything like that because that sucks. But at the same time, do any of you want to see either one of these guys lose to the other? I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for Keith Lee to take a clean loss, and I ain't ready for Karrion to take a clean loss. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go, and I don't really know what I want out of it yet. All I know is the matchup on paper is awesome, and Cross is a boss. And I'm perfectly happy with him becoming NXT champion. Would love it. Think the belt would look good on him. But then what happens with Keith Lee then? Do they trade the title back and forth a couple times? But like I said, I'm not beating these guys right now, so I don't know what they do. You guys got to help me. Outdoor SummerSlam taking place, is that confirmed? I've seen nothing about that. I'm kind of hoping it will, since WWE, when they announced SummerSlam not being in Boston, they didn't really come out and say and offer any information on the new venue. I think we all just assume it'd be the PC, but I would love a beach show. Would love it. Just hope WWE does it. But I don't think anything's confirmed as of yet that I saw. Vontae, good to see you, man. You're late as always. Don't fire me. You got kids. No, I'm kidding. Psych. No, I don't. That's funny. No, I would never fire you, Vontae. Hell no, man. You're an OG. You've been here since the start. Cross is a boss. Should be a shirt. Cross is a... Really? You don't think that's cheesy? I think it'd be cheesy. I say cheesy shit. I think Cross is a boss is cheesy, but who knows? I like Broken Foot Robert Stone too. He's definitely more entertaining with the broken feet. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with Crossbig getting the belt early, but it's like, you've just done so much to make Keith Lee here. Cross getting the belt early would be very reminiscent of Brock. I see a lot of Brock, or not. I don't see, like, they're not similar in size or anything, but in how they're handled in terms of that and how fast they're being moved up to the top, I kind of feel like there's similarities there between Cross and O2 Brock. He came in the night after WrestleMania 18. By SummerSlam, he's champ. That's even faster than what Karrion's doing. So there's nothing wrong with that. I just want everybody to benefit in the long run, and I'm such a huge Keith Lee fan. I would be, as much as I like Cross, I would be personally disappointed if Keith Lee dropped the belt already, especially right after he coughed up the North American title. So we'll see. I have a feeling he's going to keep it for a little longer somehow, and they're going to figure out a way to keep the belt on him without damaging him and without beating Karrion. I just don't know. At TakeOver 30, you don't want your world title match ending, in a schmaz or some BS. You don't want that. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Either way, it's going to be interesting because we've got good stuff across the board. TakeOver 30, even though it'll probably be in the PC and it's probably going to be a pandemic show, it's shaping up good, especially if we get Cross and Keith Lee. We're going to get a new North American champion crowned, which could be Finn Balor or anybody else. Dexter Lumis and Timothy Thatcher might be on the verge of a feud. Mercedes Martinez looks like she's here, ready to kill some people. So things are still good in NXT. Although, moving into Dynamite now, I do think they were outdone this week. I did prefer AEW over NXT again for this week. I just thought they had the better, more all-around show. Now, last week I didn't really enjoy either show that much. I still think I picked AEW as the better show, but not by much. I thought both shows were slightly weak. This week, I felt AEW was the stronger show, and it's always for the same reason. It's always for the same reason. Variety. Variety and fun. Not that NXT doesn't give us forms of variety. I'm just saying in terms of a wrestling show being fun, we laugh, we cry, you joke, it's serious at some points, it's hilarious at others, and, when it comes to wrestling, wrestling should be fun. And I think Dynamite is always fun, and they always get wacky, and they always get weird, and to me, it's just, last Wednesday, Dynamite overall was just more entertaining to me than NXT. But NXT was still awesome. But Dynamite was pretty fun this week, and it opened up with Cody Rhodes getting that jobber entrance. He's already in the ring with his music playing, I think, ready to defend that TNT title. And they had announced previously on social media, because I think the show was taped, a big surprise on AEW that one of the top indie stars in the world would be challenging Cody for the TNT title. And that got speculation running wild about who it could be, Danhausen and guys like that. Turned out to be Eddie Kingston. boy, I'll tell you what, man, AEW's promo roster is strong. They got some people in that company that know how to cut promos. Their promos and their tag teams are better than WWE. Overall talent in the women's division is better in WWE, but in terms of a lot of their in-ring stuff and their promos, they're just much better in AEW. And Eddie Kingston comes out there on fire, just talking his shit right through the tunnel. And he comes to the ring. He's screaming at Cody. He's threatening Arn. He told, I'll gouge your eye out or I'll slap your face or whatever he said to Arn. And he says it with conviction. You know, he's kind of Taz-like on the mic because he's like, you know, that New York, you know, type of accent and talk and stuff. But he's just such a badass and he seems so incredibly comfortable on the mic. No stuttering, no stammering, very confident, knows exactly what he wants to say, gets his point across, and does it well and articulates. And that's great stuff. We recently had seen him on NWA, which he does a great job there. He's been in the business a long time, knows what to do and everything, you know, but at the same time, I wasn't seeing him beating Cody for the TNT title. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought the promo and stuff was going to be the most entertaining stuff there. And props to Jim Ross. I kind of joked on Twitter. I'm like, how long is it going to take Jim Ross to shit on Eddie Kingston's physique? Because he's been kind of poking fun at Chuck Taylor a couple of weeks on TV there. And I'm like, well, if JR doesn't like the way Chuck Taylor looks, he definitely ain't going to like the way Eddie Kingston looks. And that's just the way JR's always been. He's always taken issue with dudes' physiques. And what I like about AEW is, you know, they bring guys with all different shapes and sizes. You got Eddie Kingston in there. You got Chuck Taylor. You got Marco Stunt. You got athletic guys. You got not so much athletic guys. The bottom line here is just be entertaining. And regardless of what Eddie Kingston looks like, he is entertaining, and he is not bad in the ring. Him and Cody had a pretty damn good match here. Eddie brought out the thumbtacks, and as soon as I saw the thumbtacks, I immediately assumed that Eddie is going to be taking a bump on the thumbtacks, and it turned out to be Cody instead. Cody got power bombed, shirtless, on the tacks. All the execs in AEW were killing themselves last Wednesday. It's almost like they were going out of their way to take the big bumps. The Bucks, as we'll talk about later, had the big dive off the tunnels and shit, and Cody power bombed through tacks, somehow survives all of that. Just tacks are just in him for the duration of the match. Even took another bump really close to the tacks, which, you know, just mashed the ones already stuck in him even further. In the end, he was working Eddie's leg through most of the match, ends up slapping on the figure 4 on Kingston, and Eddie taps out. Very good match, very entertaining match. I like that they're bringing in guys from the indies as surprises to take on Cody Rhodes. It's fun, and next week it's going to get more fun because Warhorse is going to be the challenger for Cody Rhodes, and that's big for the indie fans out there. And Cody had tweeted the other day, he said, that kid's not going to be in the ring with me 5 minutes or something like that, and Warhorse tweeted out, he goes, did you hear that? Cody said I can beat him and take his belt in 5 minutes. Like, I think Cody said the match won't last 5 minutes. He didn't say he was going to win. He just said the match won't even last 5 minutes, and Warhorse was like, wow, he just said I can whip his ass in less than 5 minutes. So that'll be interesting next week. Again, I don't think the title is in any jeopardy yet for Cody. I'm sure he'll win that one as well. It'll be a nice outing for Warhorse. It'll be a way to introduce him to a more mainstream audience, and that's just good for all of this independent talent that's going to come in. I hope we see more of it. And I hope it becomes, you know, kind of a little trend on Dynamite, you know, like John Cena's U.S. Open Challenge, but Cody's doing it with guys outside of the company, just bringing in and kind of a new, fresh surprise for the fans every week. ECW used to do that, a little bit of that every now and then, especially for pay-per-views. They'd always bring just one random guy in, like a Psycho Sid or a Jake Roberts or someone like that would just come in from, you know, WWE or a former WWE or WCW guy and make a debut, and it would generally be a one-off. And in AEW's case, like we saw with Ricky Starks, you know, he had a good match. They signed him to a deal. So maybe they keep Eddie Kingston around. I hope they do, at least as a promo guy or a mouthpiece for somebody, because the dude is just terrific. So I'm hoping we have not seen the last of Eddie Kingston on AEW. He is amazing, and we'll see Cody's future opponents, how many of these guys stick around after being in the ring with him. But either way, good stuff there. Loved the opening of Dynamite. Hey, Devlin, good luck, man. Officially off to work tomorrow. Oh, I thought you were officially off to work. Okay, you're not going. I was like, why are you going to work? There's a fucking hurricane. Okay, officially off work tomorrow. Time to crack open the hurricane booze. Yes, please do that. I thought you were telling us that you were leaving and going to work. That's why I wanted to answer that right away. But yeah, crack open that booze, dude. Hurricane booze, and thank you for $5 more, man. Next up on Dynamite this past week, I liked the match between MJF and Griff Garrison. This guy, when I saw him, the first person I thought of was not Jungle Boy, and I think MJF referred to him as Jungle Man, which was funny because he does have the curly hair. He reminded me of Lenny Lane from WCW. Remember Lenny Lane? Lenny Lane was like a Walmart Chris Jericho. And he kind of had the hair, the blonde hair, about the same size as Jericho, just not nearly as good looking, and nearly as talented. So they got this Griff Garrison guy in there. He was pretty, he was cool because MJF's getting in his face and he's touting and bragging that he's undefeated. He goes, I'm undefeated in AEW. And Griff actually puts his hand on MJF's shoulder, which I was surprised why he did that, or that he did that. And Griff says something like, hey, you lost a tag match, didn't you? I forgot when that was. Fighter Fest or something like that last year or whatever. Calls him out for losing a title match. Or I'm sorry, a tag team match. MJF gets pissed, nails him, and just starts beating the piss out of him. And during the match, I think Aubrey's the referee. During the match, MJF goes back out and retrieves the mic, and he's trying to get, it's very important to him, that Griff Garrison admits that MJF is undefeated on the mic. MJF is not going to rest until he does that. So he's got Griff down, and he's just pummeling him and just pounding him with lefts and rights. He's jamming the microphone in his face. Say I'm undefeated. Say I'm undefeated. And he won't do it. And then finally he does. He succumbs, and he goes, okay, you're undefeated or whatever. And that's when he rolls up MJF and nearly gets a 3 count. I actually thought he might do it. I'm like, maybe, I don't know the history of Griff Garrison. I don't know his track record or what he's done. But if this is a guy they want to randomly get over, like a Sean Waltman or something like that, or like a 1-2-3 Kid back on Raw back in the day, you get MJF in his face, screaming at him with the mic, and then he rolls him up and pins him. I thought he was going to get the 3 count there. MJF kicked out at the very last minute, eventually recovered, hits the heat seeker, and beats that kid. Pretty entertaining segment there and match, and MJF is the man. MJF is the man. I think at some point, you got to start talking about title shot for him. Looks like Moxley and Cage are still kind of doing their thing, but at some point, based on his record, when does MJF get the title shot? And we've got All Out coming up on the horizon. That might be the place. Next up, we had a Britt Baker promo. God, I love her. I even took the time to put a little bandage on her face here on the overlay. Baker is, I guess she's backstage in one of the, probably one of the locker rooms in the football stadium there. And they begin it with Tony. I guess it's Reba is her name or whatever. Tony and Reba are talking, and Tony asks her about her name or something. He goes, is it Reba? Or what? How do you say your name? She goes, Tony, the way you say my name is, and then in the background, you hear Britt just screech out, Reba, screams for her, and then she kind of rolls her eyes like, fuck. So I'm guessing she was going to tell us her name is pronounced Reba or something. I don't know, fucking know. So anyway, Britt screams for her. They go, Tony and Reba go into the room to tend to Britt. She's got her big pad there, and she's in her chair, and it's spun around. And she's like, Tony, spin my chair around. And it's not going to spin itself around. So Tony spins it around. She's got the shit all over her face, and she's talking to Tony and talking about all of the great comebacks. Mentioned Rocky IV. We just talked about Rocky IV, about Rocky coming back, and she talked a lot about Michael Jordan, because she's a big Michael Jordan fan, I guess, and she's always got Michael Jordan shoes in the background, and she wears them, and she's got a few behind her, and talks about Michael Jordan's various comebacks, including her last one, or his last one when he joined the Washington Wizards, and it was hilarious. Tony was like, Britt, the Washington Wizards never even made the playoffs. And she goes, why do you have to be such an asshole, Tony? Just fucking hilarious. She's great stuff. And then just kind of looks right into the camera and says, I'm the best, and says, I am Michael Jordan. So that is her gimmick now. And I think it would be cool if she wrestled all of her matches in Jordans instead of wrestling boots. I think that would be cool if she wants to call herself Michael Jordan. But what's cool about Michael Jordan, I used to live in Wilmington for many years, the town that he was born and lived in. And I've met Michael Jordan a bunch of times. And when he was with the Wizards, he had arranged for their preseason dinners and workouts to take place at the college there, like for them to come down for like a week. And they did that 2 years in a row. And they came to my restaurant, the entire team, both years, all the Washington Wizards and Jordan himself. And even here in California, my restaurant hosted the Golden State Warriors team dinner. So even when Jordan was with the Wizards, he was still Jordan. He was still the man, and people still lined up to see him. But I like that she's comparing herself to Jordan, who is the greatest. And she went on to say that she's going to be returning it All Out. I don't have the date on that written down. We know it's August. But apparently she will be recovered from her deviated septum surgery, which they showed gnarly close-ups of, and I wish they wouldn't have. I got just a phobia about like noses and stuff, and I saw they had her nose peeled back, exposing the cartilage or that bone that's in there. I'm like, God damn, do you have to show that on TV? It's like The Undertaker special on the network. They showed the hip surgery of him just drilling into the socket of his hip. I'm like, God damn, must we see that? But anyway, Britt Baker looks like she's going to be fully recovered and ready to rock and roll at All Out, which is great because this injury and her ability to cut these promos and be in her little thing and have her assistant and the little pulley system she had with the announcers that one week on TV and everything going on with Big Swole, this has just been a fantastic time period for Britt Baker. Even with her injury, it's allowed her character to grow, and she's one of my favorite heels. That's one thing I gotta say about AEW. They got great heels. Britt Baker and MJF don't get no better than that in terms of shit talking, you know what I mean? So AEW knows how to get heels over. Speaking of heels, Taz and Brian Cage had a promo. Taz comes out here. This is just, I don't think it was a really good idea to do the finish the way they did because with the Moxley and Cage match from last week, because the explanation here is just fucking weird. So Taz is out there. He's got Cage with him. He's like, yo, man, I almost got fired. I almost got fired for throwing in the towel. I had arguments with Brian Cage all week. You know, it's been very tough, you know, to work all this out and to explain why I did what I did. But Moxley, he puts over Moxley's armbar like he's some sort of fucking MMA fighter. He's like, he had my man Brian Cage, his surgically repaired arm, and a great armbar, a perfect armbar. I think he said, I'm like, perfect. I'm like, Jericho's probably marking out right now, armbar. And so he goes on to say that he just had no choice and he did what he did. But in a way, he almost made himself look stupid doing that because I don't know how to explain it here. It just didn't. I don't like the fact that he threw in the towel, claiming that Cage would have never tapped out. Moxley would have ripped his arm off had he not thrown in the towel. If they had a chance to have a do-over there, I might tweak that up a little bit. I'm still not putting the belt on Cage, but I would have just had fucking Moxley beat him or whatever. They're trying to do this thing to where Cage can stay equally as strong as he was prior to the match. I understand that. But this explanation doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for you guys. Maybe you guys don't give a shit. But for me, it felt off. I didn't like it. So anyway, they're talking smack, and they're interrupted by Darby Allin. Darby Allin comes out to the ring apron, and oh my God, he gets up to the ropes. You guys saw this, right? He comes out on the ramp. He's got a skateboard with him. He gets right up to the ring apron, and from behind, 288 miles per hour, Ricky Starks comes flying in there, and he fucking blasts Darby Allin right into the ring ropes. Even the guys on the outside of the ring were like, holy shit. Darby posted a slow-mo video on his Twitter of that bump, and it's gnarly. He goes straight into the ropes. His head hits like the bottom rope, and it snaps all back. He looks like a deer caught in like a fence. You know, he's just all crumpled up and everything. And you can even see for a split second there, like Ricky Starks like, holy shit, I just killed this guy. But props to Ricky for being a pro, you know, being a guy that's not really been on national TV very much, and he kept going. You know, he didn't flinch at all. I thought like I could see it in his face a little bit, but he immediately got right on Darby. I'm sure Darby's like, I'm all right. But for them to be like on TV and for him not to hesitate there and be like, did I just kill this guy? Props to him. I think he hit him a little bit hard. I think that was a little bit dangerous in a way, but at the same time, it looked awesome. And I'm sure there's no bad blood there between those guys. I would love to see a Darby Allin and Ricky Starks program. We might get that now. Good stuff there. Moxley wound up once Ricky kills poor Darby. It ain't done. Cage goes out to the ramp and power bombs him on the ramp. After that crazy bump, Darby then gets power bombed on the wooden ramp or the steel ramp or whatever, and then power bombed over the top rope into the ring. So poor Darby Allin just getting his ass kicked here. Luckily, Jon Moxley shows up. He hits the ring with a barbed wire baseball bat and chases off the assholes and saves poor Darby Allin. That would be a fun tag match. I'm ready for that right now. Give us that on Dynamite next week. Maybe they've announced it. I haven't seen it. But Moxley and Darby versus Cage and Ricky should happen, I think, immediately. I love the addition of Ricky Starks to Taz's group. Like the addition of Ricky Starks to the roster. He's fantastic. And I think that's going to be a good little spot for him instead of him just being like a guy on his own, just independently trying to wrestle and get over. Here being matched up with a mouthpiece like Taz and a big giant monster like Cage, I think is a good spot for him to be in terms of getting over. He can be the Sammy Guevara of that group there. So good stuff there. Like the segment. Like I said, that bump that Darby took is still haunting me. They announced a women's tag team tournament coming up, which I think is interesting and weird because they don't have any women's tag teams. The only one they really have is Allie and Brandy, right? What are they called? I forgot what they're called. Nightmare or something, or no, not Nightmare. Road something. Whatever the fuck they're called. They're an actual team. But there's no other women's tag teams in AEW, is there? There's some women alliances and some friendships, and it's probably easy to make pairings there, but a tag team tournament to me is weird, especially if it's designed to create a women's tag team title, which honestly, I don't think they're ready for. I don't think they're ready for it all. I don't think their women's roster can support that. So what I think this might be is maybe, what do they do where they just randomly pick the opponents? Is it like lethal lottery or something like that? They kind of did this a couple times in WCW too. I think what they might do is like kind of draw names out of a hat, put people together in tag teams and have them wrestle, and the whole thing will be done for the purpose of maybe developing new angles and new storylines. It's going to be like a vehicle for that, and I think that's fine. If it's done to crown women's tag team champions, I vote against that. I don't think they're ready for that, and I don't think they have the talent for that. But if they're doing this to create angles with the women, then I'm all for it, and it should be fun. So we'll wait and see how that whole women's tag team tournament thing plays out and what other announcements we get on that in the future. Don't even know when it's starting, maybe next week. We'll see. Oh, man. Time for some Inner Circle stuff. They were on the show a couple of times here. The first one was a backstage promo with Alex Marvez, which I have to mention because Jericho, he's the MVP of the world, man. He's fucking hilarious. He is still wearing that orange juice soaked jacket. He asks Marvez, he goes, "Do you know what color this jacket is?" And Marvez is like, "Yeah, it's orange." He goes, "I know, but it's supposed to be white because Orange Cassidy ruined my fucking life," or whatever. He goes on to say that he will ruin Orange Cassidy, and says, he goes, "You know what's funny?" He goes on to say he's going to ruin Orange Cassidy, he's going to end his life and all that stuff, and then later on they're going to embarrass the Jurassic Express because it's going to be Hager and Jericho taking on Jurassic Express later on in the show. And he goes, "We're going to go on to embarrass them." And he goes, "You know what's funny, Alex? Marco Stunt's bulbous mutated head and Jungle Boy's sideburns out of a 1970s stag film." And you can see Hager the whole time behind him is like, you're trying not to fucking laugh your nuts off. And he's struggling so hard to not laugh. Marvez even kind of does the whole thing. As soon as Jericho said bulbous mutated head, Marvez nearly cracked. Just go back and watch that promo again and watch Marvez and watch Hager. They're hysterical. And Jericho, he never gets old, man. Fucking hilarious. So anyway, I loved that promo. That might have been my favorite promo of like the whole week in wrestling. It was just based on Jericho and how mad he gets and how angry he gets and how he cracks up everybody around him. Jericho is just is coming up on the verge of being out of that 18 to 49 demo as he turns 50 really soon, unless he has already. Good stuff there from Jericho. Another good match here, which I think maybe played into the main event. I should have been able to see this coming. The Butcher and the Blade took on the Young Bucks in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and this match was so good and so fun, I think it could have been the main event. And the fact that it wasn't the main event explains a lot as to what we saw later on in that main event. And if I would have not been doing the split screen thing and trying to watch both shows at the same time and just focused on that, I probably would have seen this coming. But all in all, I was really entertained by this match. It was Falls Count Anywhere. It started off like in the kitchen, in like the catering or the kitchen area where the walk-in coolers are and the hotel pans and the speed racks and all that. And they're hitting each other with meat. They're taking bumps on the floor. I think there was even like a Poison Rana off the walk-in cooler door, which was pretty cool. Or no, maybe what the hell that move is? Not a Poison Rana. It was neck breaker or some shit that I think Nick did to Blade off the walk-in. That was really good. The match eventually spills outside of the kitchen. They go into the concession area. They're also outside in a really great spot. They find themselves near a production truck. Nick gets hurt or something like that. And Matt finds himself in the truck, and he runs through the bed of the truck and dives off onto Butcher and the Blade. And as he's running, you see a sign in the truck, and it just says Mud Show. And I just fucking love that because they know how ridiculous those Cornette quotes are, the Mud Show shit, and they just fucking troll. They don't care. You know, anybody who just repeats those stupid terms over and over really don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I like that AEW kind of embraces it and like, yeah, we're a mud show, whatever. That makes you feel better. We're a mud show on TV, getting good ratings, beating WWE in the ratings. So if we're a mud show, we're a mud show, whatever. So I kind of like that. Thought that was funny. In the end, well, I guess we also saw like an escalator spot. I like that. I think it was Blade got double super kicked onto a moving escalator, and he's kind of riding up the top. That was pretty funny. In the end, Butcher and Blade find themselves on tables on the ramp. I think they get super kicked onto tables. Matt and Nick both ascend to the top of the tunnels, and they do a double dive. I think Matt hit the elbow, Nick hit the swanton, and they pinned him. And that, like I said, that could have been the main event because that was a really fun match. And let me say this about Butcher and the Blade. They are growing on me. They got a victory a while back on AEW. I'm like, oh, look at that. I think they have a really good look. I think they've got better, especially Butcher. I really like their look. I mean, Blade is in phenomenal shape. Butcher is a really big, scary, tattooed guy that looks like he would eat you. And I used to be so turned off by them. You know, had no interest in them at all. Thought their team looked a little dumb, didn't really care about them, and they have slowly grown on me like a fungus, and I think they're fabulous. So I would like to see, I mean, they're in a big pond right now with a lot of big fish in the tag team division. So the fact that they're able to do anything significant to me is pretty good. Working with the Bucks here was really fun, and it was a great match, and I would like to see them get their due at some point in the future, maybe even get a taste of tag team gold, but they're very much growing on me. I think they're improving a lot. I like them. And I wouldn't even rule out some sort of a babyface turn for them in the future. I think Butcher could be a funny babyface. Like, I wouldn't want them to turn... Like, if WWE had Butcher and the Blade, they would be a comedy act. We know that 100%. I think AEW is smarter than that. And if they do make them babyface, they can do it in a way where they're not jokes. That's my only, like, condition there. But I think they could be entertaining as babyfaces in a while. Not yet, but like soon down the line. If there's just really nothing else for them to do as heels, they've faced everybody, they've lost everybody, maybe turn them babyface. But I'm starting to like the team, and that's a big difference from when they first came in. When they first came in, they were channel changers to me. Not anymore. I like them, and a good outing here by Butcher and the Blade. Want to shout out Lance Archer. Oh my God, that hilarious segment. He's backstage just killing a couple of guys right in the locker room. He's beating, I can't remember if it was one or two guys. He's beating the piss out of a couple of guys. And in a spot that reminded me of the movie Superman 2, fucking Hoyt picks up one of these guys and he just slams him right through the ceiling tile and it explodes and falls all down. And then he threw him in a trash can after that. So Lance going around just killing everybody every week is pretty entertaining. And it reminded me of Superman 2 when Zod's crew... They infiltrate, I get the newspaper where Clark Kent and Lois Lane work or whatever. And the big dumb one, the big dumb one with all the powers, not Zod, not the woman, but the other guy. He comes up to like the boss and he smashes his desk in half and he grabs him by the collar and he just lifts him straight up in the air and his head just pokes a hole right in the ceiling tile. And he kind of just makes his face like he passes out and falls. I don't know why that reminded me of it, but I posted a GIF of that and got a like from Lance Archer. But that reminded me that's always entertaining. It's really fun to watch Lance Archer kill people. Never gets old. Next up, we had Hangman taking on number 5 of the Dark Order. And the entire Dark Order, Evil Uno, and the rest of the guys. I don't think, was Brody Lee out there? Can't remember if he was on the stage or not. They were all watching the match. And Hangman makes relatively quick work of Johnny 5. Let's call him Johnny 5 instead of 5. Short Circuit. Come on, y'all. Beats 5. Brody gets in the ring and he starts propositioning Hangman, trying to get him to join the Dark Order. Colt Cabana is also out there. That's right. Brody wasn't out there on the stage. Colt and Brody walked out there after the match. So you see Colt still kind of hanging around those guys, and Brody Lee is trying to proposition Adam Page to join the Dark Order, and Page kind of shoots him down. He's like, nah, dude, I ain't trying to join a cult right now, which was a bad choice of words. He then gets jumped by the entire Dark Order. They start beating the shit out of him. FTR makes the save. They come in another funny spot. I just laughed my ass off. Laughed out loud when I saw it. FTR comes running down. I don't know if it's Dax or the other one. They got a cooler, like a styrofoam cooler full of beer. and they are running full speed down the ramp, and they just blast it into a couple of Dark Order guys' face. The cooler explodes. Ice and beer goes flying everywhere. They make the save for Hangman. Kenny Omega comes out there as well. And after the Dark Order retreats, FTR offers Page a beer. He accepts. He shakes their hand. And so it looks like, Page is kind of on good terms with those guys. They were even drinking together last week backstage watching the monitor. And Kenny is still very suspect here. And I like the evolution of Page and Omega because, as a matter of fact, they've got to face... Aren't they having a tag team match next week, right? I think it's Kenny and Page defending against Dark Order next week, I think, on Dynamite. Pretty sure they said that. So I like that at first, Adam Page is kind of being a dick. He's not really hanging out too much with these, being antisocial, I suppose, with the Elite. They had all the issues with all their matches, and he would always leave them, and he'd always go out drinking with the fans while they were celebrating by themselves. And it just looked like they were going to build up to some sort of an Adam Page heel turn where he turns on Kenny, they drop the titles, and he becomes this asshole heel. I think it might go the other direction now. I think it might be Adam Page to stay babyface, and Omega is going to be your heel, which, again, is fine with me because, Omega was a guy that I thought was going to be the cornerstone of the company. And he, aside from the big match with Moxley and being tag team champions, he ain't what he was in New Japan. That's for sure. So eventually he's going to have to get there. Eventually he's going to have to get to the top of that card at some point, and maybe a heel turn is good for him. Now, I think Page would make a better heel, but I like the way that they've kind of gone, all over these hills and valleys. First, you think it's going to be Page going heel. Now it looks like it's going to go the other way. Keep us guessing. That's what wrestling is all about, right? Don't telegraph shit. Sometimes you can see what WWE is going to do 3 years ahead of time. They make it so fucking obvious. So at least with this, it's not as obvious, and they're taking different turns, and they're keeping us guessing. And Omega and Page won those titles on the boat. I was there. I watched them win the belts on the Jericho Cruise, and I did not think they would still be champion by August, and they are. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I don't think they're going to drop the belts next week, but maybe they could. I don't know if I want to see the Dark Order as tag team champions, but I suppose it's possible their reign comes to an end next week, but I kind of hope not. I kind of hope they hold the belts for a little longer, and maybe they hold off the Kenny and Page split, but hell, do it now. You do. Well, that's another thing we got to remember, too. You got All Out coming up. So you could do it here, put the tag team titles on the Dark Order, let maybe FTR beat Dark Order for the titles or something, and then Omega and Page can have the one-on-one, or you do FTR versus Omega and Page for the titles. That's probably the match you actually do it All Out, but if you want to do the split, you could do Kenny and Page instead. I don't know, but I think the story there is FTR and Omega and Page. I think that's what you got to do it All Out. So I'm hoping that they dispose of the Dark Order on Wednesday and remain champs. And that leaves us, in terms of Dynamite, that leaves us with the main event. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager defeated the Jurassic Express. This was a pretty fun match here. We saw some blood in this thing, pretty hard-hitting and brutal. The finish saw Serpentico, which I guess he's been on Dark. I have not seen him at all. I don't watch much of Dark. I got to be honest. I'm sorry. There's enough wrestling in my life. It's hard for me to catch up on Dark. If I see any of Dark ever, it's usually on the YouTube channel, on AEW's YouTube channel. So I guess he's maybe wrestled on there, but I never saw that. Had I seen this Serpentico wrestle, I'd be like, that's Sammy Guevara. If it was really him under the mask on the Dark, I don't know. But anyway, he hits the ring. He's got a baseball bat. He hits Luchasaurus with it, and Jericho is able to pin him, and the Inner Circle wins. And as soon as he was there, I was like, that's Sammy. You could tell. You could tell by his body. You could tell by his eyes through the mask. I was like, that's Sammy. That's Sammy. Sure enough, he rips off the mask to reveal that it's Sammy Guevara returning, and he just has a joyous hug with his Uncle Jericho in one of the sweetest moments on TV all week. So happy to see those two reunited, because I got to say, Inner Circle, I feel like, was struggling without Sammy. I think he's like the pepper. He's the pepper of that dish, and it's a delicious dish, but it's got to be seasoned, and I think Sammy is the seasoning. He's very entertaining. I've always been Team Sammy. All of us, of course, were extremely disappointed in him with the comments that he made about Sasha Banks. He made amends. He's gotten, apologies out to her. She's accepted. He's, taken his punishment. He got suspended. His salary was donated to charity. I don't know what else I know there's some people that are never going to forgive something like that, and it's horrible what he said, but, goddamn, are people not allowed to move on from mistakes? If we're talking something like sexual assault or something like that, there is no moving on. You do something like that, you sexually abuse or assault or rape somebody, not only should you not be back in wrestling, you should be in fucking jail. But for saying something stupid, I'm not condoning it. All he had to do was use a different 4-letter word and it wouldn't have been as bad, but he chose to use the word rape. And I think that sucks. And I think that was stupid. And he said as much. He felt like an asshole for it. Where some guys come out and they try to defend it or try to, justify it or something like that. He goes, I have no justification. I will never fucking forgive myself for saying that. I was 21. I was a dumbass. I was on a podcast that just uses all sorts of stupid fucking language anyway. And I was just going with the flow there. And he did his time, So in the case of Sammy, and like I said, since all of this speaking out stuff happened, every single case really does need to be judged differently because they're different. So, some people there's the Joey Ryans of the world who issue these ridiculous apologies that are so fucking see-through, and they're full of shit, and you don't really care what happens to them. I don't want you back. You don't deserve to be back. In Sammy's case, I don't think he should be completely ostracized and blackballed from professional wrestling for his whole life because of one dumb fucking comment on a podcast. People are allowed to grow. People are allowed to learn from their mistakes. You don't become a good person without making mistakes. I feel in my life that had I not been stupid, I might not be as smart as I am now, kind of thing. Everybody learns and grows from what you do in your life. And as long as you're not making mistakes, like I said, like assault and crimes and rape and, and abuse and things like that, if you're saying something stupid, I think you can learn from it and you can become a better person for it. And I definitely think, based on what happened to Sammy and based on all the backlash and the punishment and all of that and how bad he feels, he knows better now. You're not going to have to worry about him ever going on there anywhere saying that again. So some people were disappointed to see Sammy back. Somebody might be mad that he's in my thumbnail here. How could you do that? He's so disgusting. I think some people are a little bit dramatic. I see that a lot on Twitter. I've seen some people on Twitter, a couple people that I follow, mostly girls, that absolutely refuse to forgive Sammy Guevara. And I'm like, okay, I understand your anger, but come on. Can we be reasonable here? Some things are unforgivable. Some things are. Sometimes you do something and it's completely not forgivable at all. You're done. But then there's other situations where it is. And I think this is one of the situations where it is a forgivable offense. And I personally am forgiving Sammy Guevara for those words. It's over. It's done. Don't fucking do it again. I'm confident that he won't. And I think he's going to be fine. Some others, not so much. I don't think we're ever going to see Joey Ryan again. I think there's other guys that have had a lot more serious allegations come up against them that are probably going to be done from professional wrestling, and we're probably not going to see him again. If we are, their success is going to be extremely limited. Sammy is one of those cases where I think he did his time. He's back. Let's move on. You know what I mean? So anyway, best of luck to Sammy Guevara. I mentioned him before. I've met him before. He's a super nice kid. Doesn't give off any threatening or douchey or scummy vibes at all. He was on a podcast, said something dumb, regrets it. Let's move on. Welcome back, Sammy Guevara. Why don't we get into SmackDown now before we sign off here? But first, I'll cruise over here and see if there's any super duper chats that I missed. I think there's one or two. All right, there's the Devlin one. I got you. I think I got everybody else. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. I think I've got them all, though. The only one I'm missing is DM, I think, 23. Oh, and a $10 one coming in, too. DM, where'd you go? I just saw you and I've lost you. There you are. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the $5. I'm assuming you're a brother. Maybe you're a sister. I appreciate you being here, and thank you for the $5. Non-wrestling question, but do you think Cobra Kai moving to Netflix is the end for YouTube Premium? I don't think so. I don't want it to be the end of YouTube Premium. I don't think it will. YouTube, the $10 a month that I pay is worth it just for no ads. I think what YouTube did was get away from all of their original series, like them actually producing TV themselves, because I think that was their last one that they've sold something else off to Netflix too. So I think all YouTube is doing is getting away from producing their own TV, but I think YouTube Premium will still exist in some form, and I want it to. I want to be able to pay something to not watch ads. I've not watched an ad on YouTube since YouTube Premium or YouTube Red it was called, was created. As soon as they announced that, I signed up right away. I'm like, $10 is worth it to not have to sit through that shit. And I apologize, and I thank all of you that sit through the ads on my videos because it helps my videos. But being a YouTube Premium member also helps my videos. So either way, if you're sitting through an ad or you're not, I appreciate it. But I just don't like to sit through ads. I just like to click on something and watch it. So YouTube Premium is more than worth the price for me. And I never once, other than Cobra Kai, watched or took advantage of anything else YouTube Premium had to offer. I didn't care. My big thing was the ads, and that's all I really cared about. So I don't know. I don't think it's the end of YouTube Premium, but I think it's them just kind of maybe pivoting a little bit and changing directions and what they want to do. And honestly, I think Netflix is a better place for Cobra Kai. I'm so ready for season 3 to come out. My God, I've been waiting forever. Because Netflix has a lot of success with other TV shows. The big show's got one. We've seen lots of Netflix shows. They're phenomenal. And the fact that they now own the rights to Cobra Kai, I feel like Cobra Kai could exist for many more seasons to come. At least we hope. If we can ever get back to filming stuff again, I don't know. I think a season 4 at this point with COVID is probably a good 3 or 4 years away from even happening. And by then, Ralph Macchio is going to be 70. So we'll see. Oh, man. Anywho, where's the other one? I got a $10 one rolling in. Oh, there you are. Thank you very much. Followed the dream. I appreciate the $10. AEW can be better. Come on, really. Arn Anderson needs to manage FTR. It's fitting. Take the TV ugly belt off Cody. Have a TV tournament. Have Jungle Boy to emerge. Why would you take the belt off of Cody and have a tournament for it? I don't think you just take the belt off of him. I think you'd have to lose it or be stripped. Have Jungle Boy to emerge. I'd be more than happy to see Jungle Boy win some gold, and I think he will eventually at some point. But again, there's no rush. Arn Anderson managing FTR, it would be fitting. I think Arn and Tully together managing FTR would be fitting because they're very Tully and Arn-like. They're very Brainbuster-like all the way down to the jackets. So I really, really like that idea. Of course, AEW can be better. Everybody can be better. But as far as Cody losing the belt and having a tournament for it, I'd rather just have Cody lose the belt. And I have no problem with Jungle Boy winning the belt. I have no problem with MJF winning the title or something like that. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying the independent guys coming in and working with Cody. You know, I mean, in a way, it's AEW giving opportunities to guys. There's nothing to complain about that at all. That should be a good thing. AEW, the whole point of them existing and having competition for WWE is to give somewhere else for guys to go and make money. And guys are getting paydays now. Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston, Warhorse next week. And if Cody keeps continuing this trend of doing that, it's going to get guys not only opportunities to be on TV and have a match, but get signed to a contract. And I think there's no downside to that whatsoever. So I'm all for them, number one, finishing that belt up and finishing designing it because it ain't done yet. And it does look like a can of Budweiser. And I would love to see them, you know, spice it up and make it look prettier and put the gold plating on it and all of that. Once that's there, I think it definitely will look better, even though it probably will still not look that great. But in terms of future champions, I think that belt will be passed around a lot. I think Cody's just going to be their inaugural guy. He'll have some fun with it for a while and eventually pass it on to somebody else. And I'm curious when he does lose it to somebody, if it will be some random independent guy that they just bring in and put over like crazy. Holy shit, out of nowhere, this guy just won the title. He doesn't even have a contract. They could kind of do a deal like that where AEW then has to try to sign him. But at some point, you know, if you face Jungle Boy, it would be a babyface match. Plus, didn't he already face Jungle Boy for the title? I think there's been a lot of that going on too. Luckily, Cody, you know, has been working with a couple of heels lately, especially this week with Kingston. But I was getting a little bit. It was growing old to me. It was becoming tiresome to watch Cody have these babyface matches. Same thing with Sonny Kiss. Babyface matches, beat that babyface, and then have the sportsmanship hug at the end. That's nice sometimes, but it felt like it was happening every single week, and it was growing old. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what the future holds for the title. But right now, I'm fine with what they're doing. Yeah, and I think MJF, you know, don't forget, MJF already holds that victory over Cody and stuff, so I don't know if he'll go into the ring, beat Cody again for that title. I actually think MJF might get a world title shot. It might be MJF and Moxley at All Out. You never know. I'd almost rather see MJF compete for the world title than the TNT. And that would be a good full circle moment, too, you know, especially if MJF wins the title and then maybe down the line, Cody beats him for it. Because MJF beat Cody, and then Cody can't like get another shot and all of that. So if MJF then becomes champion, and Cody can somehow get a shot. Of course, MJF's going to deny him. You can never get a shot again. I beat you because of that. And then, Cody can convince him or do something or win a match to earn a shot, or I don't know. I think it would be a good full circle moment, especially if it's way off, 6 months to a year from now, for Cody to win the title. Beating MJF for it might be fun, but there's a lot of guys in the company that I think have the potential to be world champion, and guys like Hangman and Omega are two of them. Same thing with maybe Jericho getting another crack. Who knows? We already had Lance Archer and Brody Lee. They already got their shots and stuff, and Brian Cage did too. So maybe one day MJF and Cody will be battling for the world title. We'll have to wait and see. Let's move on now. We got last Friday's SmackDown to discuss. I'm kind of blow through this a little bit. I did watch it and watched most of it. It was better than last week's. I do believe they scored or drew a 1.9 rating according to Alvarez, which is a little bit better, but still not very great. The big news, though, I think on last Friday's SmackDown was, I guess, the announcement and the blessing and the encouragement that Kofi Kingston gave to Big E on a singles run. Now, Kofi's injury, help me, it's kayfabe injury, right? Was he injured in the Shinsuke and Cesaro match when they lost the titles to him? I think they got a segment backstage where Kofi is exiting the trainer's room, and Big E's like, "What's the word, man?" He's like, "It ain't good. They tell me I'm going to be out for about 6 weeks." And Kofi's like, "It's kind of cool. I get to go home and spend time with my family. But look, man, Woods is out. I'm out. You're here by yourself. It's time for you to reach your potential. It's time for you to go out there and be the star that we know you can be." And Big E's all hesitant. He's like, "No, man, I don't know, man. As soon as you get back, we're going after those tag team titles." He's like, "Look, man, you're a beast. You're big, you're bad, you're good. There's no reason why you can't be champion here." And Kofi kind of helps push the little bird off the ledge type of thing. He's like, "Go follow your dreams and go try to win some singles gold, please." And Big E kind of has that look like, "All right, man, all right, let's do it. Let's fucking do it," kind of thing. That's great. All we got to hope here is WWE doesn't screw this up, but I have been advocating for Big E for a singles run for 3 years now? The dude is so stupidly charismatic. He's the most entertaining guy on the roster to me personally, which I've said multiple times. And my only concern with Big E getting a singles push prior was when the New Day was all still together. And a lot of us would speculate and we would talk about how that singles push would come to be. How would they start it? And we all assumed it would have to be New Day splitting up. And a lot of people mentioned a Big E heel turn where he turns on Kofi and Xavier and becomes a big monster heel type of thing. But he's so funny and charismatic. I'd almost rather capitalize on that. And I mentioned that was my one concern with Big E going heel, is that you've now lost all of that great charisma. He's gonna not that a heel can't be charismatic, but not in the way Big E, the way he booty shakes and rubs oil on his titties and shit like that. You know what I mean? He's just so damn funny. He wouldn't be able to do that as a heel. He wouldn't be able to go out there and crack us up unless he wanted to be a Jericho type, where he's a heel who's also funny. Those characters do exist, but I don't feel like that falls in with Big E type of thing. So I was always concerned if they did a New Day split, how Big E would get over as a heel because he's so freaking over as a babyface. Well, now they found themselves in a position where Kofi and Xavier are out, and they got a possibility here now to push Big E as a face. And I am ready for that yesterday. Come on, man. So that makes me very happy. I'm a big Big E fan. He's been in the company 8 or 9 years now. He's not getting any younger. If they're going to do something with him and capitalize on his strengths, do it. Don't know where he fits in to like a world title picture right now with Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt and whatever Roman Reigns does when he comes back. But with all these people gone and shit, you need to build up somebody, and Big E is great. I don't know if he's going to challenge for the IC title or if he's going to go straight for the world title. I don't know. But either way, it looks like he's on the verge of a singles push here, and I think that is nothing but good. And I am so happy about that. I'm curious when they start this. I guess next week on SmackDown, he's going to start having some singles matches. I suppose he'll still come out there to the New Day music because he gets to do all that shit or whatever. So it'll probably still be that. But I think it's something that's really been long overdue for him. I mean, he's amazing. He's phenomenal. And he's so good, so charismatic, and so damn funny, and so entertaining. He's just a great, entertaining wrestler. When you think of professional wrestlers, that's the type of guy I think of. big, strong, athletic, and fucking wacky. And that's exactly what Big E is. And I think he can be supremely entertaining. Especially if you have him in a program with somebody completely opposite of him. And like I'm about to talk about in a minute, it looks like we are going to get that match we assumed we would get at SummerSlam, Bray Wyatt, or The Fiend against Strowman. If The Fiend beats Braun Strowman, I think The Fiend and Big E matches could be interesting. I think Big E appearing on the Funhouse could be interesting. And when Big E, Big E is so funny and fun-loving and happy-go-lucky all the time, if he's in the ring from a goddamn horror movie villain, his demeanor might change a little bit, and we might be able to see a change in Big E in his attitude, but from a babyface perspective. Where he'll have his fun, but when it's time to get serious, he can get serious kind of thing. And I think there's, like, on paper there, I was thinking about that last night, I'm like, The Fiend and Big E, if you really, really think about it deeply, I think could be entertaining. I think there's potential there. I think there's possibility there. Will the WWE locate and find that potential and possibility? Probably not, but it's there, and I think it can be done. So I am totally on board with the Big E singles push, and I would love to see him get title matches before the end of the year. Best of luck to you, big man. We love you. Speaking of the Funhouse, we had Bray Wyatt. This was creepy as shit. So we had a Funhouse segment. Bray Wyatt, of course. What the fuck? Did he win or lose the swamp match? I don't even know. So anyway, he's got the lantern. The lantern that's like in the shape of his head that he brought out when the Fiend first appeared, which was creepy as hell. And he's almost like talking to it. Like that's the vessel that holds the soul of OG Bray Wyatt, I guess, because he's talking to it and he's saying, you had your chance, now it's my turn, kind of thing. So he's hinting at the fact that, and we speculated on this prior to the match because Strowman beat Funhouse Bray, then he wrestled the other Bray in the Swamp match. It stood to reason that at SummerSlam it was going to be Strowman and Fiend, and that looks exactly like what they're gearing up here to do. If this match is made official and it happens, I very much want the Fiend to win the title. He debuted 1 year ago, did he not? Wasn't it at SummerSlam against Finn Balor? Coming back at that very show this year and winning the title, I think it'd be cool. I'm not a huge Braun Strowman fan. Really don't care to see him as the champion. And if Bray Wyatt is able to beat him and get that belt back that he should have never been beaten for by Goldberg, I'd be happy. And maybe he can be salvaged. I mean, that Saudi Arabia match, I will never, ever in my whole fucking life get over that. I mean, I've never been really stark raving mad about a finish of a match before, ever. I'm not that type of YouTuber. There's plenty of those type of YouTubers out there. You can watch, scream, and yell if you want. I'm not that guy. That match made me so goddamn mad, I'm still not over it 6 months later. It was so damn stupid what they did. So now some time has passed. A couple of new programs for Bray, and this most recent one was Strowman. I would love to see the Fiend get the belt back, and whenever he loses it again, just don't lose it stupidly to somebody that doesn't deserve to beat you for it. That's all. And that would not be the case with Big E. If anybody deserves to have gold around their waist, it's Mr. Langston. You know what I mean? So anyway, that should be interesting. We'll see where that goes heading into SummerSlam. We had a Sasha and Bayley promo. They're in the ring. They're just bragging about all their belts and how great they are. Nikki and Alexa come out to the ramp. Nikki's pissed about last week. She wants a rematch. And Bayley, really good piece of promo cutting here, and maybe even some writing. Bayley is like, okay, fine. You want a rematch? No problem. I'll give you a rematch. All you have to do is defeat a decorated female star, former Raw Women's Champion, former SmackDown Women's Champion, Tag Team Champion, and future Hall of Famer. And she's talking while she's looking at Sasha the whole time. And then she goes, Alexa Bliss. So Nikki has to face her friend, Alexa Bliss, which is really smart move on the part of the heels, to kind of create that divide between them, try to stir up shit between them. And I like that because, again, much like it's like the Adam Page and Omega thing, they remind me of Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss a lot because of how wrong I was about the direction of where the team was going to go. Clearly, they're going to implode. Clearly, there's going to be a split, but not in the way I thought. I thought for sure it would be Adam Page going heel, and he'd be a dick and and get drunk all the time, and Elite would just get fed up with him. Nikki Cross, same thing with her. And Alexa, I thought for sure Alexa Bliss would just do to Nikki what she did to Nia Jax. Just, treating her like shit. Because at first, when Nikki was around Alexa and so excited to be around her and hugging her all the time, you could see that Alexa was subtly like rolling her eyes or, oh God, she is a complete fucking nuisance to me. But they seem to have grown on each other. Like Alexa Bliss on TV and kayfabe really seems to appreciate Nikki Cross as a friend. So that's not the direction I thought they were going to go. You know, Alexa really seems to value her friendship with Nikki. So the fact that Bayley and Sasha have kind of now forced them to fight each other, I thought was pretty cool. They have the match. Bayley and Sasha were on commentary for this. And I always love them on commentary because they steal the show. I mean, they're so fucking hilarious. I might have kept them off for this match because I thought it was a pretty big story with Alexa and Nikki being in there in the ring. And the announcers weren't talking as much about that, I think, as they should have, because it was the Bayley and Sasha show on the headsets there. So it might be the only time ever I've ever been disappointed with the commentary of Bayley and Sasha, only because of that reason, though. But in the end, Nikki is able to small package Alexa Bliss and get a quick pin on her. And then backstage, they share a little bit of an awkward moment where Alexa approaches Nikki and she's like, "Oh, you got one over on me. Good job," or whatever. So they seem to still be all right. They're still friends. If they are going to do a split with those two and some sort of an implosion, I'm kind of hoping it doesn't come for a while because I think they should keep doing their thing together. And plus, I feel like Sasha and Bayley could be on the verge of one themselves. We'll have to wait and see. But interesting stuff there with Alexa getting pinned, and now Nikki will earn another title shot. I don't know when that's happening. Is it happening next week on SmackDown or what? I don't even know. I don't think they would save that for SummerSlam. That's got to be a bigger match. So that match will probably be happening pretty soon, and we'll see. And we'll see what happens tomorrow night, too, because, of course, Sasha's got that big match with Asuka to determine who the Raw Women's Champion is. And that's where I think something's going to happen. Maybe they do something. And I said this before. I think Bayley would do something to maybe inadvertently cost Sasha the match. She is then pissed. But then maybe all the fans are thinking, well, Sasha's now going to get revenge. She's going to be pissed at Bayley. And then Bayley's got the match with Nikki Cross, but instead of Sasha fucking up like Bayley did, maybe Sasha actually helps Bayley retain, just to say, see, no hard feelings. You screwed me out of my title shot, but I just helped you retain yours. So why don't you give me a shot at the title at SummerSlam? They could go a million different directions there, which is the beauty of the Sasha and Bayley angle and storyline. I think why it is so good, because you really don't know how it's all going to go down. We got ideas, got a million different ideas in our head of how it could go, but we really don't know. And maybe we'll get a seed planted tomorrow, or maybe we won't. We'll have to see. But either way, Asuka better walk out of Raw tomorrow as champion. That's all I'm saying. We had Matt Riddle taking on Tony Nese. Pretty quick match there. Riddle made very short work of Mr. Nese. Baron Corbin brings his douchey ass out to the stage and starts talking crap. Starts talking about how Matt Riddle isn't ready for the blue brand, and he should go back to NXT for some more seasoning and some more training, when Matt Riddle could just straight beat the shit out of Corbin anytime he wanted. So they're really dragging out this issue. I really hope this is not a SummerSlam match, but I'm thinking it will be. Either way, Riddle's beating him. And that's that. Riddle's just going to beat him. I think they need to build Riddle and Big E as title contenders, like top title contenders, both of them. That's what I hope comes out of this. And then maybe send Baron Corbin back to NXT. That I'd like to see. We also had Naomi, and I want to apologize. Last week, I really blew through the SmackDown results quickly. I didn't mention poor Naomi at all. And she had a lot of support all week long because I didn't mention the match she had with Lacey Evans. Lacey beat her. Fans got pissed and started like a Naomi deserves better hashtag or whatever. And that then spilled over into the week, and Booker T, I think he was on his podcast. Where was Booker T? Where he went on kind of like a little mini rant on Naomi. He made it clear that he loves her, loves Naomi, thinks she's amazingly talented and the best athlete in WWE. I'm not totally sure if that's true, but she's definitely a great female athlete. Not sure if she's the best one, but she's damn close. She's been there nearly a decade. She's put her time in. She's worked hard. She's beloved by the fans. She has a great attitude, and everybody likes Naomi. However, Booker T took a little bit of exception to the fans getting all uppity about it. He's like, you can go to hell with these hashtags and all this stuff. And he had all these Booker T type of things to say about why you don't just get a chance. You can't just pass the title to everybody. It's not about what you deserve. And I agree with that a little bit. you get what you get in life. It has nothing to do really with what you deserve. You get what you get. And as somebody that's been a wrestling fan for going on 40 years now, not everybody gets a chance to succeed. Sometimes there's perfectly good, talented people that just don't make it to that level, that just don't get the title. Naomi has had the title. Naomi won the title. Was she hugely over? She didn't get over the way Becky Lynch did, even though a lot of fans think she should have. In terms of how hard Naomi works, in terms of her attitude and all of that, I think absolutely she deserves to be on the top of the card. But at the same time, there's other things missing there. Booker T pointed that out, but that maybe a few things are absent from the performance aspect of what she does. And he basically just really shit on the idea of fans doing hashtags to get people pushes and shit like that, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I like it when the fans band together and call out for somebody, because we've seen positive results from that. Daniel Bryan won the belt at WrestleMania 30 because of that very reason. Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, Paige, all these women came into the WWE and made the women's division an actual real thing because of the Give Divas a Chance hashtag and shit. So I don't think hashtags are always bad. I think they can work out in a positive way at times. However, I'm not completely on Booker T's side on this, because I think he's, sometimes he can just be a little bit too much Booker T for me. You know what I mean? But I love Booker T. He's one of my all-time favorites. And when I really listen to what he says, he's not all wrong, but he's not entirely right either. So with Naomi, for me personally, I don't connect with her the same way as some of the other women on the roster, but that doesn't mean I won't. I think Naomi does have potential, but the only thing I agree with Booker T on is the fans that have this idea in their head that every single person can be champion, and that's just not the reality of it. This isn't Little League. You don't get a trophy for showing up. You have to work. You shouldn't have a list of people that say, okay, we want to give all these guys a chance with the title, and it's in the next guy in line. Now it's your turn to have it. Now it's your turn to have it. Now it's your turn to have it. There has to be actual reasons to put the belts on people. And when people said, hey, give Naomi a chance, what were they really talking about? Sasha and Bayley are tying up the world title situation on SmackDown right now. There is no room for Naomi. She's not on Raw, so she's not around Asuka and her title either. So in terms of current storylines as of today, there just isn't a place at the top for Naomi right now. That doesn't mean there can't be in the future. But I think a lot of fans' issue was the fact that she took the loss to Lacey Evans last week, and they were pissed. What? She lost to Lacey, and nobody really likes Lacey. And correct me if I'm wrong, is she a heel again? Because Naomi was on Miz TV with Miz and Morrison talking about all the support she got from the fans and how appreciative she was of that. And then Lacey Evans comes out just healing on her. So maybe I've just missed when Lacey became a heel again, because wasn't she a babyface and she was doing the whole armed forces thing? And and I said that I did not like that gimmick as a babyface. It's too pretentious. It's too stuck up. Her dumb outfits and her hats and her gloves and all the shit she wears and how she talks. That is a heel gimmick. Totally a heel gimmick. If they want to capitalize on her service in the armed forces, then make her like John Cena or something. Have her coming out there with dog tags and camouflage pants or some shit. I don't know. Excuse me. So if she's a heel again, which it appears she is, I am all for that, because she needs to be. So she came out to the ring, shit on Naomi some more, and I think they've got that match set, rematch for next week, right? Naomi versus Lacey, and there you go. Naomi deserves better. Well, guess what? She's going to get better because she'll beat Lacey next week. There's no way she'll lose to her again, unless they do the Ruby Riott thing with her. Ruby lost to Peyton Royce and then lost to Billie Kay the next week. I almost lost my mind. So if that match happens, which I think it does because I remember writing it down somewhere. Oh, yeah, it's right there. Yeah, Naomi versus Lacey next week. A lot of matches set for next week's SmackDown. Naomi will definitely get the win back. But in terms of, what she does, her gimmick and her light-up shoes and her dance routine, all of that is fun and everything, but I'm not one of the people, and this is nothing against Naomi. Like I said, I'm trying to sound like Booker T here. I'm nothing against Naomi. If they want to put the belt on her, I'm not going to say she doesn't deserve it, because she does deserve it. But in terms of somebody that I want to see, that I'm going to tune in to watch their matches, Naomi doesn't give me that same feeling that a Bayley, Sasha, Asuka, Shayna, Charlotte, Becky, a lot of women do for me. And Naomi just doesn't quite for me. I just hope that doesn't come out wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about her. and I hope she's not listening. I love you, Naomi. It's just, I don't know what the fans want sometimes. So I kind of feel like the hashtag last week was nice. It's always great to see fans come out and support somebody and show support for a wrestler, because at the end of the day, the fans should be making the decisions here. WWE likes to pretend that's the case, but we know it's not. So the fans decide. No, they don't. You're full of shit, WWE. We don't decide anything. But sometimes we do. So anytime fans band together to support somebody, there's nothing negative about that at all. I would never criticize that. It's just, I don't know what else, I don't know where Naomi really fits in right now. And I do think there's a couple of things that she does lack. She's not the best in the ring. She's athletic, but I think I can probably think of 7 to 10 women on the roster that I think are better in the ring than her. It's not a knock. You're still in the WWE, still a former women's champion, still great. She's been there a lot of years and knows what she's doing, but at the same time, she ain't Becky Lynch either. So if they can get her in a situation like Becky was in a couple years ago, where her face got caved in by Nia Jax and then all the fans got behind her, that's what they need. They need to put her in the ring with Nia Jax and have Nia hurt her. Once that happens, Naomi could main event WrestleMania. She just might have to face Nia Jax before then. So yeah, the Naomi stuff, I was happy for it, but don't know what to make of it. And I feel bad that I didn't mention any of this last week in the podcast. I apologize. And you guys asked me about it, and I forgot to talk about it, and I'm sorry. We got to wrap up SmackDown with the bar fight. The big bar fight took place. I have not been into this storyline at all. It's been driving me crazy. I'm so glad that it appears to be over now. This was weird. I was thinking it would be more, it almost looked like it took place in a brewery or something. I was thinking it would be more like at the Friendly Tap at Timmy White's place, or in a bar like the APA used to have fights in all the time. This was a little hokey because, it was a cinematic type of thing, and it was, heavily edited and stuff, and there was a lot of crazy bumps and some fun shit there, and Sheamus is dressed like something. He's got that weird-ass little hat with him, and the hat apparently is magical because at one point he puts the hat, he puts it on, Jeff Hardy's laying on the ground, he puts the hat over Jeff Hardy's face and pulls it off, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Jeff has the makeup on, and he opens up his eyes and attacks Sheamus. They brawl some more. They're all over the place. The match ends when Sheamus is on the ground, on the concrete ground, and Jeff is up on a ladder next to some wine barrels, and he swantons off, but the camera kind of cut off to where you didn't see the whole floor. So luckily, I'm almost 1,000,000% certain that Jeff did not take a concrete tailbone bump after that swanton. They had some sort of a padding or a mattress there. He lands on him. You heard the sound, and then you see him roll over and pin Sheamus right there on the floor, and it's over. In terms of the cinematic and special effect type of matches they've had, this was not the best, but maybe not the worst either, but not that great. To me, it wasn't that special. It was okay, but I wasn't like overly enamored with it or anything like that. But good thing is, it looks like this has got to be done now, because enough's enough. Jeff Hardy's done. He's exorcised this demon. He can move on and continue his redemption story. And then Sheamus can just start going being an asshole and start picking on somebody else. That's what I hope they do here. And good win for Jeff Hardy. We knew he'd get it back, because when they faced at Money in the Bank or something, he lost to Sheamus, and then getting his win back here was good. So congrats to Jeff Hardy. And like I said, next week, SmackDown is shaping up to be pretty big. Like I said, we've got Lacey Evans taking on Naomi. We've got Nikki and Alexa taking on Sasha and Bayley for the tag team titles. That's huge, because Nikki and Alexa had that match. Nikki beat her. A little bit of awkwardness, a little bit of tension there. Nikki gets a title shot sometime in the future. I mentioned earlier that it could be next week, but I completely forgot that they've already advertised this tag match. Again, I don't see Sasha and Bayley losing here. I suppose maybe they could if they really implode hard, but if Sasha is going to drop the match to Asuka on Monday, I don't know if she's going to drop the tags with Bayley on Friday, unless it's a way to make the SummerSlam match happen between Sasha and Bayley. Nikki and Alexa can then go defend the titles against somebody else. Sasha and Bayley can do their thing for the title, and now they just got one title to worry about. They're no longer tag champs. That's gone. Sasha's lost the Raw title. The SmackDown title is the only piece of gold left, and the two will go head-to-head for it at SummerSlam. That's kind of what I think. That's what I think the plan was to be when SummerSlam was going to be in Boston. Not sure if WWE's changing directions now that it's not going to be, but I think the table is set here for that match to take place based on what's happening tomorrow and what's happening next Friday. Between those two shows, I think enough can happen to where that will put them on a collision course for SummerSlam. And there's also the chance that they don't lose any belts, and it becomes Raw Women's Champion Sasha and one half of the Tag Team Champions against SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley, also one half of the Tag Team Champions. You put them in the ring together, all 4 belts. I don't know what you do there, because after the fact, they're still going to be Tag Team Champions, so maybe they drop them. They might drop them. It'd be tough to see Sasha lose 2 big matches in 1 week like that, but it might be necessary for storyline purposes. What do y'all think? Also, we got an IC title match booked for next week. Gran Metalik won a number 1 contenders match on Friday, didn't he? I forgot who he even beat, but he's now earned the opportunity to face AJ next week. Now, provided they give these guys more than 8 minutes, I'm ready for this match. I can't see Gran Metalik winning. No way. But much like Cody having these cool matches with different opponents, AJ can kind of do the same thing here. Having a 205 Live guy come in, or a cruiserweight wrestling for that title. And him and AJ are going to put on a spectacular match, I have no doubt. And I'm sure AJ will retain. If AJ is champion going into SummerSlam, which I'm assuming he will be, who does he face? Who gets the title shot at SummerSlam based on who's on SmackDown? A lot of people might say Matt Riddle. I say no. I think Riddle had his 2 matches with AJ and he's done. I think it's got to be somebody else. Maybe Jeff Hardy. Maybe Jeff Hardy or Big E. Big E I'd like to see. That's who I should have said right off the bat. Yeah, because Strowman and The Fiend are going to be doing their thing, so it's not time for Big E to get involved in the world title situation just yet, unless they hold off Big E to take on the winner of that feud, which will hopefully be The Fiend. And like I said, Big E and Funhouse Bray could have some pretty fun shit together. So if Big E does not face AJ for the IC title at SummerSlam, and he's a former IC champion already, right? Back when he was Big E Langston in a heel and all that, right? So if he does not face AJ for the title, then maybe he just gets a couple of wins on TV, and maybe even at SummerSlam, some sort of a singles match, and then faces for the Universal title, faces The Fiend at the pay-per-view in September. I don't know. What do you guys think? Either way, I think we have some potential for some decent matches in the next few weeks. And also, what the hell's going on with Otis and Mandy next week? Please tell me they're not doing a live sex celebration on Fox. My grandma could be watching. So yeah, something's going to happen next week. It's called the Otis and Mandy Love something or other. It looks like they're going to consummate their relationship. I don't think they're going to do it Edge and Lita style, but something just gives me the ew vibes from this. I don't know what we're going to see. Don't know what's going to happen. You got to remember, Otis is your briefcase holder, correct? So what's going to happen there? Will he eventually cash that thing in? Will he lose the briefcase to somebody? Be cool if he passed it off to Big E or something. That'd be awesome. But at some point, Otis is going to have to try to cash in. Could you imagine Otis and Big E wrestling for the title? That would be weird. That'd be really weird. We'll see. Next week looks good. All the shows look good like next week. So what do we say? We got these 2 matches. We got 2 2 title matches on SmackDown next week. Tag titles on the line for the women, with Sasha and Bayley taking on Nikki and Alexa. AJ defending the IC title against Gran Metalik tomorrow night. We also have 2 title matches, Sasha and Asuka, Drew and Dolph. And next week on NXT, I don't think we have a title match. We just have some qualifiers for the North American ladder match. But on AEW, we've got the Dark Order taking on Omega and Page. So yeah, we got a pretty good lineup next week across all the shows. We should see some good title matches. We should see some good wrestling. And all in all, I'm hoping it'll be a fun week of wrestling kicking off tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. And I got done in the nick of time with 1 minute to spare. I have got to get out of here, guys, but it has been a fun couple of hours. Let me cruise up here and knock out any super chats that I missed, and then I am going to be bailing out. All right. Devlin, thank you, man. Officially off work tomorrow. Time to crack. Oh, I already got you there. I already got that one. I already got that one, too. Shit. Did I miss one? Margie, thank you very much for the $5. Love that segment between Big E and Kofi. I felt genuine. It felt genuine, not overly scripted. I agree. Plus, it's a big opportunity for E. It was. I'm really hoping he goes, man. It's going to be great for him. I love the segment too. I like Kofi kind of giving him the blessing. You know what I mean? It was awesome. And Stone Cold, thank you very much. Naomi won the belt at Mania. She is fine. Yeah, she's fine in terms of like title histories and stuff, but I think they're talking about just her getting over. Yeah, but anyway. All right, guys, I got to bail out. I think we did 2.5 hours or something like that in here today. Pretty cool. You guys have a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night and weekend. I will catch you tomorrow night immediately following Monday Night Raw. I can't wait. Y'all be good, and I'll catch you soon. Peace.